Hunter x Hunter, start with the prison power. Chapter 131. The moment he saw the shop owner, Lean's eyes of judgment clearly saw the sin value in him, but this sin value was really pitiful. Later, under Lean's questioning, the store owner told him everything he had done, which made Lean a little stunned for a while. Everything the shop owner does is completely to satisfy his own vanity. Through some high-priced ingredients, some people who want to get them can experience the feeling of coveting them. In this feeling, the shop owner's vanity will increase exponentially, and on the day when he is satisfied, he will eat the ingredients for show-off with great pride to increase the deliciousness he experiences. After listening to what the shop owner said, Lean wondered, "You are doing this kind of thing near the Hunter Association headquarters. Are you really not afraid of death?" Hearing this, the shop owner was frightened into a cold sweat, and said tremblingly, "I don't know. I just change places when I get tired of staying in one place. It all depends on my mood, and I usually only stay in the shop, not going anywhere." Lean nodded, tentatively agreeing with this statement, and then said, "You said you are a homebody, so where did you get these ingredients? You probably don't have this ability based on your ability." The shop owner answered honestly, "Actually, I purchased these ingredients at a high price from the official website of the Hunter Association. Although I am also considered a professional hunter, how could I possibly collect them with my own abilities?" "Oh. It seems you are rich?" Lean asked with interest. The moment Lean said these words, the store owner's fat body trembled obviously, and then said, "No. It doesn't count, money." "Ah." With a sneer, Lean raised his fist and asked, "Do you think it's my fist that's tougher or your head that's tougher? I really want to try it." It was okay for the shop owner to bully others. He had never seen such a scene before. He struggled in his mind and said helplessly, "My sister was originally a professional hunter. He taught me how to use this power. After she died, she left me a legacy. Big money and then..." With a look of struggle in his eyes, the shop owner continued, "Then I used the money to conduct various transactions online, and I made a little profit." Hearing this, Lean approved the answer, and then said, "Okay. Let this matter go as it is. But I will take these 2 7-colored peacocks away." "Take it away, I don't need that thing at all, just think of it as an apology from me." After hearing Lean say that the matter was over, the store owner said hurriedly, fearing that Lean would regret it, "Don't worry. I won't take anything from you for nothing. How much did you spend on these 2 ingredients?" Lean asked casually while picking up the ingredients that had been left aside. The shop owner waved his hands repeatedly and said, "You don't have to pay, you can just take it." At this time, Lean looked over and said sternly, "How much?" 350 million nuns. The shop owner was obviously startled by Lean's eyes, and quoted the price without thinking. Hearing this, Lean said, "Idiot, it's too expensive. This 7-color peacock that can only be eaten is only worth 240 million at most. I know. But I want to get it, so what else can I do except spend money?" Hearing this answer, Lean also gave up other ideas, took out 350 million kini from the storage room and threw it away. "I won't take advantage of you, just treat this money as if I helped you." After saying that, Lean walked out of the store. Suddenly, Lean seemed to have thought of something. He turned around and asked, "By the way, how much money did you make?" At this time, the shop owner began to hesitate and hesitated to answer. Seeing his appearance, Lean was intrigued and walked up to the shop owner carrying the ingredients, his eyes becoming a little cold. Seeing Lean's appearance, the shop owner panicked and said frankly, "It's not much actually. My sister left 8,000 million kiwis, and I only made 15 billion. Hearing this, Lean looked at the shop owner curiously and asked, "How do you make money? That's a gap of nearly 20 times. "It's nothing, it's just a simple transaction. This kind of operation is not difficult for me at all, and money doesn't mean anything to me. I still like the feeling of seeing others disappointed and showing off myself." The shop owner said as if he was resigned to his fate, as if he had lost his resistance to Lean. The kick he just received was the best in the shop owner's life and will become an experience he will never forget. Looking at the ordinary shop owner in front of him, he couldn't be more ordinary. Lean decided to give him a chance. If his expectations were good, this guy should be a talent in some way. He took out a business card from the storage room and said, "Want to experience the feeling of showing off? This is not a wrong idea. Go call this person and he will guide you on a good path." Lin put the business card into the shop owner's hand and walked out without looking back. That business card was of course Ford's. As for whether the store owner would contact Ford, Lin didn't care. He was just curious. After walking out of the market, Lin carried the ingredients and headed back towards the Hunter Association. On the way back, Lin told Ford everything that had just happened, and let Ford make arrangements for himself if the guy chose to contact him. After walking into his room, Lin went directly to the kitchen and dealt with the two colorful peacocks. Looking at the ingredients that had been processed, Lin had an idea in his mind to prepare a dish that he remembered. Then, Lin marinated the two ingredients with various spices. After about 2 hours, he put the ingredients into the vent by the window of the room. The ingredients in the vents will be exposed to wind and sun during the period of time, and eventually become the main ingredients of cooking. After roughly estimating the time, Lin felt that with the current weather, it would probably take less than a few days to start production. Looking at the setting sun on the horizon, Lin was looking forward to tomorrow's meeting. He didn't know what kind of attitude he would take tomorrow to ascend to the top position of the Hunter Association. Dip dip. While he was deep in thought, there was a sound from Lin's cell phone. Lin turned on his phone. It was a message from the bean-faced man, telling Lin that a welcome meeting would be held at the Hunter Association headquarters at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and he would come to pick him up. After replying to the bean-faced man casually, a smile appeared on the corner of Lin's mouth. Feeling the breeze blowing out of the window, his eyes unconsciously drifted into the distance. Chapter 132. Hunter Calendar January 1999, 1:9 am, Hunter Association Headquarters. At this moment, in the meeting room of the Hunter Association, except for today's protagonist Lin and President Nitro, all the senior leaders of the Hunter Association were present. It's great. I'm glad to see everyone here again. When was the last time that all 12 earthly branches were present? At this moment, Perry Stone was wearing a yellow suit, sitting in the main seat with a smile on his face, looking at the 12 earthly branches present and said. Chai Duo, who was sitting next to Jin, glanced at the expressionless Jin Fulasi and felt the atmosphere of the scene without speaking. He believed that the same was true for the 12 earthly branches present. When Perry Stone said this, he was obviously implying something. But no one answered, for fear that this seemingly harmless guy would cause some trouble. Suddenly, Yinhu Kangze looked at Perry Stone and said, By the way, Perry Stone, why do you want to sit in the position of president? Are you planning to usurp the throne today? Kangze, you are really heartless when you say such things. I have no other thoughts sitting here, I just want to make my presence felt in front of you all. As for the rebellion you mentioned? It's completely impossible. I respect the president very much. Perry Stone kept smiling, sitting in the main seat and looking around at everyone, his tone was very friendly. Cut. Kangze looked at Perry Stone with some disdain. After all, he hated people like Perry Stone who were not decent at all and had a sunny appearance but a dark heart. At this time, Chen Long Porter, who was sitting upright on the chair, spoke out, Perry Stone, sit back in your seat, otherwise the president will come and you won't be able to stop it. Perry Stone knew that Porter had always been an upright person, and as a prosecutor he attached great importance to rules, so he was not prepared to say anything more. With a smile on his face, Perry Stone sat back in the first seat on the left, looking around at everyone present. What was he thinking in his mind? After Perry Stone sat back to his original position, the conference room fell into silence. Wu Ma Shu, as a trouble hunter, felt very bad about the atmosphere in the conference room and said, Do you know anything about this new mind-killing master? I didn't expect that just a mind-bending master would take over, and all the top leaders of the association would be present. It seems that this mind-bending master is very valued by everyone. Shu's words attracted the attention of everyone present. Jin Fulasi observed everyone present, knowing that these people were usually very busy and had different purposes for appearing here. Although I don't know what your purpose is, I just happen to be at the headquarters. By the way, Perry Stone, you don't have any conspiracy, right? You're just a mind-killing master. How about you start such a big battle? Zio was lying on the table chatting away, and said with a suspicious tone. Hearing this, Perry Stone waved his hands repeatedly and said, How is that possible? I just want to gather everyone together to welcome the new members of our big family. Ha, liar! A unified voice emerged in the hearts of everyone present, and they did not believe what Perry Stone said at all. These people knew in their hearts that Perry Stone must have some plan in organizing this meeting. Jin Fulasi sat in his seat and did not express any opinions. He just looked at everything indifferently, as if everything had nothing to do with him. Looking at the 12 earthly branches in front of him, Jin knew very well that none of these people, including Paristan, came to join in the fun and had their own little plans. Later, Paristan continued, "Actually, I have another purpose for convening this meeting." Paristan's words attracted everyone's attention. Their eyes were unconsciously focused on Paristan, and their curiosity was obviously aroused. The mind-killing masters who have taken office this time are not ordinary. I am thinking about everyone and want you to establish a good relationship in advance. After all, everyone knows that there are very few mind-bending masters. As he said that, Paristan's expression changed and he said with a grief-stricken look, "I thought about everyone so much, but I didn't expect that I would be doubted by everyone. It really makes me sad." Everyone present listened to Paristan's words with completely unbelieving expressions. They would not believe that Paristan would be so kind. Unusual? Is this mind-killing master different? Although I don't know what you mean. But in my impression, mind-killing masters are people who are weak in mind-killing at a high cost. Ugly Bull Milton asked Paristan with doubts. Hearing this, Paristan smiled slightly and said mysteriously, "It's hard to say. After all, my information is limited. But, this question can be answered by Mr. Jin. After all, among everyone present, only Mr. Jin has had contact with the mind-killing master." Paristan's words successfully attracted everyone's attention to Jin Fulis, who had remained silent. Looking at the expressionless Jin, Mao Tugpiorn was playing with his mobile phone and asked doubtfully, "Actually, I just wanted to ask, Jin, a busy man, would come to the scene for such a thing? Don't you think it's strange? Actually, I'm also very surprised, but seeing that everyone is here together, I don't have the nerve to ask any more questions." Shishigalo agreed. Everyone was obviously curious, but looking at Jin's expression, he didn't seem to be ready to explain anything. Chai Duo knew that Jin did not want to answer the question, and Paristan's purpose in saying those words was probably for Jin. Although she didn't know the purpose, she knew that if it continued like this, she didn't know what would happen. After looking at the time on the watch, Chai Duo said, "It's about to start. I'll leave it to everyone to observe for themselves what kind of person that mind-killing master is." After everyone heard this, they knew that even if they asked Jin, they would not get an answer. They immediately withdrew their attention and waited in their seats. At this time, inside the room of the association headquarters. Since it was his first time to attend a high-level meeting of the Hunter Association, Lin dressed up very formally. He put on a light white dress and tied his long hair behind his back with a headband. Coupled with his considerable height and delicate and handsome face, he looks quite stunning. Dong dong! The sound of knocking on the door sounded. Lin in the room had been preparing for a long time and secretly said, "Here he comes." Opening the door, the figure of the bean-faced man appeared in front of Lin. Looking at the handsome young man in front of him, the bean-faced man greeted, "Mr. Lin today is not only energetic, but also more handsome." Hearing this, Lin nodded and asked, "Are you ready?" "Yes, all the high-level officials are in place, all we need is Mr. Lin to be here." The bean-faced man's words made Lin's heart beat faster. Although Lin has absolute confidence in himself, the top leaders of those associations are not very economical, and they are still somewhat nervous. Taking a deep breath, Lin adjusted his mood and said slowly, "Let's go." Chapter 133. Following the bean-faced man, Lin saw Nitro's figure halfway through the journey. "Teacher Nitro, are you waiting for me here?" Rin passed over the bean-faced man and walked quickly to Nitro. He was curious about why Nitro was waiting for him here if he didn't go to the meeting. Nitro smiled and said mysteriously, "I happened to meet someone today. She knew the news that you were here and asked me to bring her over to see you. Guess who he is?" Hearing this, Lin recalled in his mind that he knew so many people that he really couldn't guess them at the moment. Just as Lin was guessing, a girl with pink hair appeared from the corner behind Nitro. Lin was surprised and lost his voice, "Men Chi." Nitro looked behind him and found Men Chi looking at him sheepishly, muttering, "It's boring, it's exposed so soon. Sorry, President, I just wanted to take a sneak peek, but I didn't expect." Men Chi came forward, with a hint of joy in his apologetic expression. Nitro waved his hand and said nonchalantly, "Forget it. I have completed my task. Let's go to the conference room first. Please pay attention to the time." With a reminder, Nitro left and walked towards the conference room. He was looking forward to what kind of answer his new disciple would give him. Seeing the two people in front of him, the bean-faced man certainly knew what was going on. He reminded Lin to pay attention to the time and would wait for him at the corner, and quickly left Lin's side without looking back. Looking at Menchi with long hair shawl in front of him, Lin said apologetically, "I didn't expect to meet you here, but unfortunately I will be very busy today." Hearing this, Menchi waved his hands repeatedly and said hurriedly, "I came to the association headquarters today to do business, and I just met the president by chance. I didn't expect the president to tell me that you were here, so I asked the president to bring me here to find you, because I have some good news to tell you." After hearing this, Lin asked doubtfully, "Good news?" Menchi nodded and explained, "I asked today and your name has already been registered at the Hunter Association headquarters. Although you are just an ordinary hunter, after a few days, our achievements will be reported, and you can immediately rise to a 1-star gourmet hunter through your achievements as a gourmet hunter." So, Menchi congratulated with a smile, "Congratulations, Lin, you will be a 1-star hunter soon." Hearing Menchi congratulations, Lin was stunned and then thought that Menchi had said that he would share the achievements in Tommy's forest equally. Although Lin refused at the time, Menchi was obviously not a solitary person, but he didn't expect Menchi to progress so quickly. You must know that determining merit is a very troublesome matter. Just reporting materials requires some preparation, and professional organizations must provide certain relevant certificates. Looking at Menchi in front of him, Lin said softly, "Thank you, Menchi. You have worked hard during this period, are you tired?" "It's very tiring. It's very tiring. It's very tiring." Lin's words kept echoing in Menchi's mind, and a warmth kept rising in his heart. This feeling of being cared for was the first time Menchi had experienced it. A warm current formed in his heart and rushed straight into his mind, and he was stunned for a moment. Looking at Menchi, who was blushing and stunned in place, Lin waved his hand in front of his eyes and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" "Menchi." Menchi reacted and said in a panic, it's okay, I was just thinking about other things." Hearing this, Lin said softly, "It's okay. I'm going to a meeting now. Let's celebrate together when I'm done. Wait for my call." Menchi nodded quickly and agreed, "Okay. Go ahead and do your work first." After saying that, Menchi crossed Lin and walked behind Lin with a somewhat panicked pace. Although he felt Menchi's weirdness, Lin didn't think much about it. His main focus now was on this meeting. It's just that this meeting with Menchi surprised Lin. Judging from Menchi's state today, she was really busy during this period. Suddenly, just as Lin was about to go find the bean-faced man, Menchi's voice came from behind. "Lin, you look handsome today." Lin turned around and saw Menchi, whose face was red, leaving in a panic. Seeing this scene, no matter how slow Lin was, he understood what Menchi meant. Seeing Menchi leaving in a panic, Lin smiled and said softly to himself, "Thank you." Menchi, who was in a panic, naturally didn't see the scene. At this time, Menchi's mind was full of thinking about leaving here as soon as possible. It wasn't until Menchi's figure disappeared that Lin found the bean-faced man and went to the conference room of the association's top executives. At this time, Nitro was already sitting in the main seat in the conference room, looking around at the 12 earthly branches in front of him with a smile. Nitro chuckled twice and said slowly, "I have almost forgotten the last time there were so many people here." Hearing Nitro's emotion, Chen Long Porter said seriously, "There is nothing we can do about it. After all, everyone has their own responsibilities. It is normal to be absent once or twice." "Normal? I remember a certain guy who had a hard time meeting people. He hasn't been here several times, right?" Yinhu Kangze looked at Jin Fulisi with an unkind look. This naked provocation could be seen at a glance. Jin Fulis knew Kangze very well, and knew in his heart that Kangze's meaning was completely different from Pariston's. He was really just complaining. Hearing this, Jin said helplessly, "There's nothing we can do about it. I don't even have time to certify the 3-star relic hunter. It's normal not to come to meetings like this." Jin's explanation was so reasonable that Kangze couldn't fault it, and then Kangze decisively changed the subject. Kangze said doubtfully, "Why can't this newcomer come over? Does he have to be on time, so now?" "Dong, dong. President, we are coming in." Before Kangze finished speaking, the bean-faced man's voice came from outside the door. As the door was opened by the bean-faced man, the entire conference room appeared in Lin's sight. This is the first time that Lin has appeared at a meeting of the Hunters Association. All the senior members of the association looked at the handsome white-haired boy in front of them with various expressions of unknown meaning. "Mr. Lin, please come with me." The bean-faced man said something, then walked to an empty seat, pulled out the chair and motioned for Lin to sit here. Chapter 134. Turning his attention to the position given by the bean-faced man, Lin found that his position was very subtle. The conference table was rectangular, with Nitro sitting at the head seat and the 12 earthly branches sitting on both sides. Lin's position was opposite to that of Nitro. Next to him on the left was Misaki Gale, and on the right was his old acquaintance Jin Fulis. Without saying too much, Lin walked over and sat on the chair, completely ignoring Jin's presence. At this moment, Lin was completely convinced that he was the Hunter Association's exclusive mind killer, and he came to the top of the Hunter Association. "President, everyone is here, the welcome party can begin." Seeing that Lin was already seated, the bean-faced man said something and sat on the chair by the wall. This is the exclusive position of the Beanman. As the Secretary General of the Hunter Association, although he does not have the decisive right to vote, he still has the right to observe the meeting. Although Lin had just entered the conference room, he had already compared the images of the 12 earthly branches with the information in his mind. The 12 earthly branches are the elites among the elites selected in various fields by Nitro, the president of the Hunter Association. The purpose of these people joining the Hunter Association varies, but most of them have the animal image of their respective earthly branch in their appearance in order to express their admiration for Nitro. Lin had read the original work on the 12 earthly branches in his previous life, so when he came into contact with these people again, he didn't have to worry about their basic information. It's just that Lin knows very little information. After all, real contact and watching anime cannot be generalized. And Lin had already decided that as long as these people, including Pariston, did not show hostility to him, he was not prepared to stand on the opposite side of them. Seeing Lin take his seat, Nitro, who was sitting at the main seat, felt that the time was ripe and said, "Now that everyone is here, as the initiator of this meeting, Pariston." Having said this, Nitro looked at Pariston and continued, "You will host the welcome party, okay?" Hearing this, Pariston said with a smile on his face, "Of course, no problem." Seeing Pariston stand up and stand next to Nitro, Lin was very sure that Nitro was just watching a show. However, this does not put pressure on Lin. After all, it is irrational to become hostile when the other party does not show hostility. The attention of everyone present was all focused on Pariston. As the initiator of this welcome party, everyone knew that his purpose was not simple, but they just didn't understand what his purpose was. However, most people have the attitude of watching a show, and more want to see how good the new mind-killing master is. They will adopt different treatment methods according to the actual situation. If you miss this opportunity, you are likely to be excluded from others. Whoever loses the deterrent effect is likely to have difficulty in making an appointment, or may not be able to make an appointment. Nitro handed over the hosting of the welcome party to Pariston, and everyone felt that he would definitely take this opportunity to show off some of his fangs. Leaving aside Nitro for the time being, Ryan and Jin Fulis also had the same idea as everyone else. After all, Pariston advocated that everyone gather together, which must be more than just a welcome meeting. With a smile on his face, Pariston looked around at everyone and said slowly, "Today we all gather together to welcome the new members of our association. It is really a day worth celebrating. But before that, everyone must be unfamiliar with the new members. Let's ask our exclusive mind killer to introduce himself." After Pariston finished speaking, he took the lead and started applauding. The crowd did not disappoint Pariston. Although the applause was not loud, it still showed their attitude. The applause stopped, and everyone's eyes were focused on Lin. He stood up gracefully without any stage fright. "Hello everyone. I am the exclusive mind killer of the Hunter Association, Ryan Purst. Nice to meet you." After Lin finished speaking, he walked up to Nitro amidst the doubtful eyes of everyone, just sandwiching Nitro in the middle, with Pariston on the left and right. Jin looked interested when he saw this scene. He was very curious about what Lin would do. Everyone must know that a mind-killing master needs to pay a price to remove thoughts, and the reward I need is not something like money. So if everyone here needs to find me to help you, you can contact me individually, or designate specific tasks through the association's channels. After finishing speaking, Lin said to the bean-faced man, "Secretary General, Please send my contact information to everyone present after the meeting. Hearing this, the bean-faced man stood up from his seat and said formally, "Okay. Mr. Lin." Seeing the bean-faced man sitting down, Lin smiled slightly and continued, "That's it for the introduction. In addition, if any of the senior leaders of the association need to contact me, I will give you a 20% discount based on the actual situation." After saying that, Lin walked back to his seat under the various looks from everyone. Feeling the eyes of everyone, Lin knew that the first step in his plan was completed. Regarding how to integrate into the association's senior management and secure his current position, Lin had a complete plan. He just used the platform of self-introduction to complete the first step. Although the introduction just now was brief, Lin's words contained a lot of information. This information is like a piece of writing in front of these elites, and there is no fear that these people will not understand it. The general meaning is that I have no other intention, I just came up to introduce myself and advertise at the same time. I'm just a mind-killing master. It's easy to talk about anything if you give me face, but it's hard to do anything official if you don't give me face. Nitro looked at all this calmly, and was very satisfied with Lin's words based on the actual situation. This sentence is full of two sides. People who are kind to Lin will release more kindness. On the contrary, for those who put Lin in a hostile perspective, he was full of threats. Pariston watched Lin walking to his seat, wondering what was going on in his mind. After Lin sat firmly, Pariston clapped his hands and said excitedly, "I didn't expect Mr. Lin to be such a person with such a spirit of unity. I'm so touched." Hearing this, Lin smiled and said politely, "I'm serious, Vice President Pariston. After all, I am also a member of the Hunter Association." Then, Lin changed his voice and asked doubtfully, "My introduction is over, why don't you applaud and encourage me? After all, during the period when I take office, I will be a comrade in arms fighting with you." When everyone heard this, they all applauded without knowing what Lin meant. It's just that the sound of the applause this time was obviously much louder than the first time. Seeing this status quo, Lin expressed satisfaction, which proved that his first step plan was successful. Chapter 135. In Lin's plan, in order to enter the upper echelons of the association and gain a certain say, one must go through 3 stages and meet 3 conditions, and this first step is called making a statement. Amidst the applause of everyone, Lin was also silently observing everyone's reactions, so that he could find out which people were hostile to him. But the current emergence of this phenomenon also represents Lin's first step. Establishing a statement is basically completed. The applause stopped, and Pariston did not return to his seat. Instead, he stood there as if he still had something to announce. Pariston smiled and said, "Actually, in addition to the welcome meeting today, there are some other affairs of the association that need to be handled." When Pariston said this, everyone present was not surprised, but they just didn't understand what he was going to do. I believe everyone knows that there has been no mind-killing master in the association for a long time. The memory eradication tasks accumulated in the past have become part of the association's responsibilities. We can just take this opportunity to solve this problem, and at the same time, it can also prove the strength of our new members. Then, Pariston looked at Lin with a gentle smile and asked, "What do you think? Our exclusive mind killer, Mr." When everyone present heard Pariston's speech, their eyes all focused in Lin's direction. Everyone knows that Pariston is obviously trying to force the palace. He takes this opportunity to solve some of the association's problems without paying any price, and at the same time understands Lin's way of eliminating thoughts. Although the 12 earthly branches came here for different purposes, one thing was unquestionable, and that was to see the quality of this new mind-killing master. Therefore, everyone knows that no one will object to this matter. After all, this is a beneficial and harmless thing for everyone. Of course, Lin knew Pariston's purpose, and he also knew that at this time, under the foreshadowing of Pariston's words, refusal would likely be marginalized by the association's top management, which was equivalent to the ancient dynasty's letter of submission. But if you agree, it's up to you whether you will get the reward or not, which will make the association's senior management feel that they are more manageable. After lowering his head and thinking deeply, Lin felt that this kind of thing could be done, but the initiative must be in his own hands, and he was not prepared to work in vain. After confirming his idea, Lin looked at Pariston and showed a mysterious smile. This scene surprised Pariston, but seeing Lin's fearless appearance made Pariston quite curious about Lin. After only looking at each other for a few seconds, Lin turned to look at the bean-faced man and said, Secretary General, please bring over the backlog of mind-clearing tasks. Just as the bean-faced man stood up, Lin seemed to have thought of something and added, as long as it is stored within the association, all those outside the association will be excluded. Hearing this, the bean-faced man responded and said, Okay, Mr. Lin, I will sort it out and send it to you right away. As the bean-faced man left, everyone present secretly guessed that the young man in front of him agreed too easily. While everyone was secretly guessing, Jin Fuli's next to Lin showed a smile, but this smile was too secretive and was not noticed by everyone. However, this subtle change could not be hidden from Nitro, who had been observing everyone. Nitro couldn't help but narrowed his eyes, and began to look forward to Lin's follow-up. Both of them understood that Rin was definitely not someone who followed the path drawn by others. There must be a reason for him to do this. And looking at Lin's appearance, based on their understanding of Lin, they all had the feeling that this guy was going to cause trouble. Although everyone felt that Lin and Paristan were somewhat at odds with each other, they were not the only two people present. However, what surprised everyone was that Yinhu Kangze actually took the initiative to talk to Lin. Lin, the cost of getting rid of your thoughts is high, right? Kangze asked very directly. Hearing this, Lin smiled slightly and replied, Fortunately, after all, getting rid of thoughts is not an easy task. If you are interested, you can patronize my business more. I believe the result will definitely satisfy both of us. Kangze looked like he didn't believe it and said, It depends on your ability. I hate people who talk big. Sensing Kangze's distrust, Lin didn't say anything more. He sat in his seat and waited patiently. Not long after, the bean-faced man returned to the conference room and placed a folder in front of Lin. Lin opened the folder in front of him and began to read the mission information on it carefully. After a brief look, the result was not beyond Lin's expectation. Most of the tasks of eradicating thoughts were resentments or items that were intended to be remembered after death. These items are classified according to specifications and stored in the Hunter Association's storage room. After roughly reading it, Lin raised his head. Just when everyone thought that Lin was going to choose a task to do next, what Lin said next was far beyond everyone's expectations. Lin pondered for a few seconds and said slowly, I reject Vice President Peristan's proposal. The merciless rejection echoed in everyone's minds. Through Lin's series of actions before, everyone has determined that Lin will definitely choose to eliminate Nian. After all, the loss of refusing is obviously greater than agreeing. However, Lin's performance was beyond most people's expectations, and he even had a feeling of distrust towards this new member in his heart. After hearing Lin's reply, Peristan's face did not change at all, and he wondered, this is obviously a very good proposal. Why did Mr. Lin choose to refuse? Don't you want to be ours? A part. After hearing Peristan's words, everyone, including Jin and Nitro, understood that Paristan was still stirring up trouble. After Chai Duo heard Peristan's words, a feeling of disgust arose in her heart. For Chai Duo, it was no surprise that Paristan did anything, but this guy's character was really unpredictable to him. Until now, she was still a little unclear about Peristan's purpose. Then, Chai Duo's attention shifted to Lin. He wanted to see how this new member would survive this crisis. Moreover, Chai Duo has been observing Jin's movements. She absolutely does not believe that Jin will attend such a meeting for no reason. It must be inextricably related to this mind-killing master. Not only Kijao had this idea, everyone present was an elite in their respective fields. Although they had different personalities, they were not stupid. They all noticed some traces from the development of this matter. They will not forget that the most powerful people in this meeting are still sitting on the sidelines, saying that Lin and Nitro have nothing to do with each other. These people must not believe it. Chapter 136. It's just that Nitro's current state is in the position of a bystander, but these people can see the relationship. After all, Nitro sitting here is a deterrent in itself, and letting Paristan take charge clearly shows that he has full confidence in Lin. Although most people don't know where this confidence comes from, the rules of professional hunters always remind them to never lose vigilance. For many people present, sitting on the mountain and watching the fight between tigers is the right route. As long as this mind-killing master can gain a firm foothold today, he will definitely be a great guy in the future. When Lin heard Peristan's words, he knew that this restless guy wanted to cause trouble again, and he also knew that now was the critical moment to implement the second step. Lin looked around with his eyes, taking in everyone's expressions. He knew very clearly that these people were like senior gamblers with chips in their hands. They would never place bets easily if they were not sure enough to win. And Lin knew that what he had to do next was to give these gamblers absolute certainty. At that time, Lin, who has received the chips, will be in the same position as these people, or even superior to them. This is the second step of Lin's plan, and the condition to be achieved is called establishment. Turning his attention to Pariston again, Lin explained, "Does Vice President Pariston think that removing thoughts is a very simple matter?" Suddenly, Lin's eyes became very cold and he continued, "Does Vice President Pariston think that I am a fool who works for free?" Hearing this, Pariston smiled and retorted, "I didn't expect Mr. Lin to have this idea. Since we are part of the Hunter Association, we naturally have to contribute to it. Otherwise, how could we occupy the association's resources at will?" Everyone present understood that what Pariston meant was that since you are so unsociable, don't sit in the toilet and don't think about using your identity as a mind killer to enjoy some of the benefits of the association. Lin also understood that this was Pariston's method of coercion. More importantly, given the current situation, these words could not be passed over casually. This has nothing to do with factions and hostilities. This is entirely a reflection of attitude and is related to Lin's actual position. After chuckling twice, Lin said slowly, "It seems that Vice President Pariston doesn't know me very well." After finishing speaking, Lin looked at the bean-faced man and said softly, "Can you trouble the Secretary General to explain my contribution to the association?" The moment Lin finished speaking, the bean-faced man already understood what Lin meant, and knew in his heart that it was time for him to play his role. After Mr. Lin became the association's exclusive mind killer, he completed 2 tasks issued by the association. One is to help defeat the enemy Haka to eliminate Nian, and the other is to form a rescue team with Mr. Jin to rescue the professional hunters trapped in the Lulu K ruins. After the bean-faced man finished speaking, he sat back and looked in Lin's direction with burning eyes. Through Lin's performance just now, the bean-faced man knew very well that this boy was really extraordinary. No wonder President Nitro favored him so much. After listening to the bean-faced man's story, Pariston completed part of the information. Unexpectedly, Lin actually participated in beating up the enemy's family. Pariston naturally knew about the Lulu K ruins, but he had no information about the task of eradicating the mind of the enemy family. After all, this matter went through Nitro's channels, and was only forced on the association by the bean-faced people. Hee. Pariston laughed twice and said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to complete the mission twice, but..." After a pause, Pariston continued, "Of all of you present, who has not made great achievements for the Hunter Association? Just 2 times is really a little less. And now there is an opportunity in front of us. I really don't understand why Mr. Lin refused this opportunity to contribute to the association." Pariston's tone was very gentle, but his words were full of knives. He was completely trying to oppress Lin with the association's righteousness. "I think Vice President Pariston must have misunderstood something," Lin said lightly. "First of all, my relationship with the association is very normal and I don't owe the association anything. Secondly, the rewards for those tasks are all things I don't need. I will definitely not agree to this kind of free work. Secondly, I always focus on completing tasks first, and I haven't received the rewards from previous tasks yet." "But..." Lin smiled and continued, "Since Vice President Pariston cares about the association so much, how about helping the association with some remuneration? Just in time, let me see Vice President Pariston's determination to fight for the association." Seeing the 2 people's words as if they were kicking a ball, everyone present could not help but know that the young man in front of them was not simple. Chai Duo looked at Lin. She now realized deeply that the relationship within the association might be disrupted because of the relationship between the young man in front of her. As for the outcome, Chido didn't think too much about it, but she could clearly see from the current situation that at least Nitro and Jin Fulasi were on Lin's side. Although neither of them expressed anything, this kind of behavior often proved absolute trust. Chai Duo looked at Pariston solemnly, knowing that Pariston might have kicked the iron plate this time. After hearing what Lin said, Paris said without changing his expression, "Mr. Lin is really joking. I am only the vice president of the association, which is not enough to pay Mr. Lin's remuneration." Hearing this, Lin raised his eyebrows and said regretfully, "That's such a pity. You know, I have already made plans to give the vice president a 8% discount." After listening to Lin's words, except for Nitro, Jin Fulasi and Pariston, most people were thinking, 8% off? I'm afraid it has to be super doubled. At this time, Pariston said in surprise, it seems that Mr. Lin still has a preferential treatment for me. I wonder what remuneration Mr. Lin wants. Pariston's words fully attracted the attention of the other earthly branches, and they all became curious about Lin's reward. This kind of information related to vital interests is the information that other earthly branches want. There are just some telepathic prisoners. I believe everyone here is capable of guaranteeing the release of some. As for the specific number, of course it depends on the actual situation. Without any hesitation, Lin directly stated the reward for eliminating thoughts. Prisoner? Chen-Long Porter asked in confusion. Hearing this, Lin nodded and answered, yes. To remove my thoughts, I need to consume a certain amount of thoughts and vitality, and death row prisoners who have committed serious crimes just meet this condition. I think this reward is not a difficult thing for everyone here. Chapter 137. After hearing what Lin said, the earthly branches present nodded. For them, Lienti's reward was not too difficult. Even Porter Bai, who is a prosecutor, does not think there is anything inappropriate in Renti's remuneration. But Chai Duo, who was next to Jin Fulis, had a solemn look on his face, as if he had discovered something was wrong. Chai Duo knew in his heart that regardless of his fighting ability, the young man in front of him would definitely be quite effective in eliminating thoughts. However, this kind of alternative condition for removing mind will definitely cause a problem in the future, and that is the number of prisoners with mind ability. Chi Duo is very clear about the scarcity of prisoners with telekinesis abilities. I also understand that if Lin becomes famous in eliminating thoughts, he will definitely face the problem of more monks and less meat. After all, prisoners with telekinesis are a rare resource in a sense, and they are not something that can be obtained casually. At this moment, Chai Duo's heart began to waver, and he was already thinking about whether to place a bet in advance. Even if he couldn't, he would think of other ways. Oh! Prisoner! Pariston thought thoughtfully. Seeing that everyone present was attracted, Lin decided to strike while the iron was hot and take advantage of the opportunity proposed by Pariston to obtain a wave of benefits. Boom! Boom! Lin knocked on the table twice, and everyone's eyes were instantly attracted. Lin put his forearms on the table, raised his chin with the back of his hands, looked directly at everyone and said slowly, actually, I also want to contribute to the association. After all, I am also a high-level member of the association, but everyone must know that there is a price to pay for removing me. I definitely cannot bear this part of the cost alone, so... Lin paused, smiled, and continued, so I have a proposal that I hope the senior management will consider. After Lin finished speaking, Chai Duo said first, what is your proposal? As long as it is good for the association, even if the price is higher, I think everyone here can accept it. Hearing this, the smile on Lin's face became even brighter, and his attitude towards Chi Duo was very clear in his heart. This was Chi Duo starting to sell favors. After organizing his words, Lin said slowly, my proposal is very simple. I will solve all the mind-removing tasks currently in the association's backlog as soon as possible. The moment Lin said these words, those present who did not understand Lin's ability to eliminate thoughts were filled with surprise. In this situation, the possibility of Lin talking big words was completely zero, which meant that the speech they just heard was definitely not nonsense. That's why people who don't know what Lin can do will be surprised by what Lin said. After all, the association has always had a backlog of mind-clearing tasks. Crack! Crack! As soon as Lin finished speaking, he saw Pariston clapping his hands. What a great mind killer! Sure enough. The person recommended by the president is different. Then let's start now. Pariston retracted his palm and looked at Lin with a smile. Hearing this, Lin looked at Pariston and smiled, Vice President Pariston, I haven't finished what I just said. I don't take any of the rewards for these tasks, and I give them all to the association as my meeting gift. After hearing what Lin said, everyone present stared at Lin, wondering what the hell this young man was doing now. Seeing the different expressions of everyone present, Lin knew that this was the effect of the first step of making a statement. No one would have the slightest doubt about what he said now. After taking in all the expressions of everyone present, Lin said slowly, I need the association to pay the basic price of eliminating Nian. After all, I can't bear this price alone. I think the association doesn't want to see their exclusive mind killer sweating and bleeding, right? At this moment, no one asked questions, even Pariston was thinking about the purpose of Lin's proposal. Some people even don't understand why Lin didn't reveal this plan when Perry Stone first proposed it. Looking at the people who were lost in thought, Lin leaned back on his chair, knowing very well what these people were thinking now. After all, passive acceptance and active proposal have completely different concepts. What Lin is doing now is to plant a seed called status deeply into the hearts of the association's top executives, and this seed will begin to grow rapidly the moment it is planted. Perry Stone felt that the smile on his face was a little stiff. He had already guessed Lin's purpose the moment he made the proposal. In Periston's perception, this was Lin's idea of injuring 1,000 enemies and losing 800 to himself. It was Lin's last resort behavior in order to maintain his status in the association. Everyone present had their own thoughts in mind, but without exception, they all believed that this was a choice that Lin had to make. Lin didn't care what other people thought. When he made this proposal, the balance of victory had been locked, and he could only earn with tears and blood. No matter how hard these people think about it, they will never think that Lin's method of eradicating thoughts is completely useless. After all, the existence of prisons far exceeds the knowledge of the hunter world. However, to Lin's surprise, it was not Perry Stone who raised the question first, but Yunhe Kangze. Kangze looked at Lin and asked, "How long will it take you to complete the association's backlog of tasks?" Hearing this, Lin looked directly at the bean-faced man. Although he had already expected that someone would ask this question, Lin always thought that the person who asked the question was Perry Stone, but he did not expect that this person turned out to be Kangze. Lin thought about it carefully and found that Kangze's behavior was actually normal. After all, Kangze is a treasure hunter. In the process of discovering treasures, some precious treasures may be entangled with various thoughts. Thinking of this, Lin's attitude towards Kangze instantly improved a lot. After all, this will definitely be a big customer in the future. The moment Lin looked over, the bean-faced man, with his intelligence, immediately understood Lin's thoughts, and then stood up and walked towards the door. Seeing the bean-faced man leaving, most people present confirmed their views on Lin. I feel that Lin must have a certain degree of confidence, and even have absolute confidence in his ability to eliminate thoughts. Suddenly, Su Go Chai Duo looked at Lin and asked, "Mr. Lin, can I make an appointment in advance now?" As soon as Chai Duo finished speaking, everyone looked at Chai Duo, feeling a little anxious in their hearts. The moment they saw this scene, Jin Fulasi and Nitro's eyes seemed to intersect, and a slight smile appeared on the corners of their mouths. Chapter 138. Hearing this, Lin smiled at Chi Duo and said, "Of course." Chi Duo's behavior made Lin very satisfied. This was Chi Duo's show of goodwill, and at the same time, he put the treasure on Lin. Lin knew in his heart that Chi Duo's sudden show of kindness was like putting a catfish in a school of sardines, and the sardine effect it caused was enough to cause confusion among everyone present. Later, Lin continued, "Since Ms. Kijao is the first official reservation I have received in the Hunter Association, the deposit does not need to be paid, and we can discuss the remuneration in detail." Hearing this, Chai Duo nodded and said with a smile, "I will contact you as soon as possible if necessary." The two ended the conversation with smiles on each other's faces. At the same time, both of them knew tacitly that at this moment, a bond of trade was formed between them. Chai Duo has given Lin a good start, so Lin will naturally choose to reciprocate the favor. As for who will follow, it will be decided based on the actual situation. Hearing these words in other people's ears, they all secretly regretted it. They didn't expect that Chai Duo would start to win over Lin in advance when the situation was unclear. And Lin's attitude also made them unexpected. He just agreed without offering any substantial benefits. Everyone here understood that the mind-killing master in front of them had a maturity that was beyond his apparent age in terms of human sophistication. At this moment, Lin's image has been greatly improved in everyone's hearts, and some people have even begun to firm up their choices. Seeing that Chai Duo had completed the appointment, Kangze felt a little anxious. His family knew about his affairs. As a treasure hunter, his need for a mind-killing master was basically one of the top among the 12 earthly branches. The treasures that Kangze had unearthed in the past, some extremely precious discoveries, would be forcibly attached to them by various thoughts, resulting in those collections being sealed in the darkness. His purpose of attending the welcome meeting Perry Stone mentioned this time was to get in touch with this exclusive mind killer. He would decide the distance between the two based on the attitude of everyone in the association. When I was waiting before, I was already very anxious. Now I saw that Chai Duo had already started to make an appointment, and I felt even more anxious. I want to make an appointment too. When Kongze was about to make a reservation as the second person, Yu Piorn spoke first. Just as Lin was about to speak, he heard Kongze urgently say, "I'll make an appointment too." Seeing this scene, Lin did not rush to agree, but looked at the other earthly branches. "I'll make a reservation too." "Me too." How could the remaining earthly branches not know what Lin meant, and expressed their opinions one after another? This scene was completely within Lin's expectation. After all, as a professional hunter, who wouldn't lack the help of a mind killer? Hearing this, Lin replied, "Don't worry, everyone is a senior member of the association. We will have many opportunities to contact you in the future. I will not charge a deposit for this appointment." I made a secret calculation in my mind, and found that apart from Jin Fulisi and Nitro who were watching the show, there were only 2 people present who had not made a reservation. These 2 people were as expected by Lin. One was Vice President Paristan, and the other was Shen Ho. Journey to the West. Paristan's reaction was completely within Lin's expectation, but he didn't quite understand Shen Ho. Journey to the West's approach. According to the original description, this guy in Journey to the West is a real traitor, and he is working with Bianda and Paristan. In such a formal occasion, Lin did not expect that he did not follow the trend and chose to side with Paristan. Just as Lin finished speaking, and the people who had made reservations were about to ask something, they heard the door of the conference room being opened. Turning around, he saw the bean-faced man walking in with a stack of documents. Putting the documents in front of Lin's desk, the bean-faced man said, "Mr. Lin, all the memory eradication tasks accumulated by the association are here. According to internal staff statistics, as of today, excluding cancelled tasks, the association has a total of 133 tasks. Among them, item type mind clearing tasks account for the majority of the total, with a total of 117. The task of eradicating thoughts attached to the human body occupies 14 spots. The remaining 2 are regional mind erasing missions, one from Meteor Street and one from V5. After hearing the bean-faced man's explanation, everyone present fell into deep thought. Everyone knew a lot about the mind-clearing tasks accumulated by the association, but they didn't expect there to be so many, which was completely beyond original expectations. At this time, most people were secretly regretting whether they accepted the favor too early. Because everyone knows that this kind of workload cannot be completed by ordinary mind-killing masters. Hearing this, Lin's reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. He directly put all the mission documents aside without even looking at them. Lin said to Dumian Ren, "Secretary General, please gather all the people and objects that need to be removed to the association headquarters in 3 days. As many as you can gather. In addition, please send someone to coordinate these tasks with me. I need an assistant." After hearing this, the bean-faced man replied, "Okay, Mr. Lin, I will arrange this matter as soon as possible." The moment the bean-faced man turned to leave, he glanced at Nitro from the corner of his eye. Seeing that Nitro had no reaction, he quickly left the conference room. After explaining the matter, Lin's eyes returned to everyone, patted the documents at hand and said, "I will complete these tasks as soon as possible. As for the reward, please ask the association to provide 200 telepathic prisoners first. I believe everyone here will have no objection to this." As soon as Lin finished speaking, most people turned their eyes in the direction of Nitro, and the meaning in their eyes was self-evident. After all, within the Hunter Association, the decision-making power of the association president is very important. At this time, Nitro can only take action. Nitro chuckled twice and said slowly, "I'd better let everyone's opinions on these matters go, why don't we vote? But I need to state one thing. Once Lin's proposal is finalized, the matter regarding the prisoners with abilities may require the guarantee of all senior officials and the payment of a sufficient deposit." As soon as Nitro finished speaking, Paristan said, "It seems that our exclusive mind-killing master has a big appetite. With such a large number of telepathic prisoners, are you ready to empty the prison?" Hearing this, Lin shrugged helplessly and replied, "I can't help it. How about you get rid of your thoughts?" Paristan waved his hands repeatedly and said helplessly, "I can't, but I agree with your proposal. It's just that the number of prisoners with telekinesis remains to be discussed." As soon as Paristan finished speaking, Ziu, who kept looking around, said, "I don't agree with this proposal." Chapter 139. Originally, Lin was still wondering why Paristan would agree to his proposal. Now hearing Ziu's objection, Lin knew that Paristan had retreated behind the scenes, and pushed Ziu out instead. Looking at the eyes of everyone present, Xiu said indifferently, I don't agree with this proposal. Later, Xiu looked at Lin and teased, you are just a mind-killing master. As soon as you came to the association, you occupied a high-level position, and you still want so much reward. I want to say something here, 200 telekinetic prisoners? Are you dreaming? Hearing Xiu's words, Lin's expression remained normal. He knew very well that Xiu had obviously taken over Pariston's position, but Lin had no idea why he did so. Lin knew from the original work that the Hunter Association, under the arrangement of Bhornda Nitro, had infiltrated 2 traitors. One of them is Pariston, whose purpose is to lock Nitro into the position of president of the Hunter Association so that he will have no energy to care about other things. To put it bluntly, Pariston's purpose in becoming vice president is to cause trouble, but there is also an interesting idea of playing a game with Nitro. As for the other one, Shen Ho, Journey to the West, who is currently raising objections, is a person who works in secret, and his purpose is to master the internal information of the 12 earthly branches. The division of labor between these 2 people is extremely targeted, and they have no connection with each other. Except for the identity of the 12 earthly branches, there is not even an intersection. But this is where Lin is confused. Logically speaking, Pariston is responsible for causing trouble, and Westward Journey will definitely follow the trend and try to have nothing to do with Pariston. Now the 2 of them are unusual enough to wear a pair of pants, which makes Lin wonder what the hell the 2 are doing. Aren't they afraid of exposing the details between them? After all, the people sitting in the conference room are all elites in various fields, and any clue will arouse the other party's suspicion. Thinking of this, Lin decided to explore the reality of Journey to the West first. At the very least, he had to understand the other party's purpose, otherwise conflicts in some events would disrupt his plan. With an idea in mind, Lin looked at Xiu with a normal expression and said without any emotion, Mr. Xiu, as a bounty hunter, is certainly qualified to say such things. It's just that if the association doesn't pay basic remuneration, I can choose not to accept these tasks. After all, you want the horse to run, but you don't want to let the horse eat grass. This doesn't make sense in any organization. Lin's words were not only meant for Xiu, but also for everyone present. The purpose is to tell everyone that now I am taking the initiative to help the association, rather than begging the association to complete these tasks. Since I cannot guarantee my basic price, then I can choose not to do it. Hearing this, Xiu plucked his ears, flicked his nails, and said disdainfully, young people nowadays are so arrogant, and they completely lack respect for their predecessors. Do you think you got this position for free? You are enjoying the resources of the association and you are talking to the lions of the association. I think you don't recognize your status. Listening to Xiu's provocation, Lin didn't feel any anger. The role of emotions in this situation was completely negative and had no effect on achieving Lin's goal. Lin has always felt that even if the table is turned over out of anger, it still depends on how the table is turned over to see if the desired effect can be achieved. Everyone looked at Xiu's attitude towards Lin and were completely unprepared to get involved. They just admired Lin's attitude in their hearts and were not affected by Xiu's provocation at all. Lin looked at Xiu and asked, so, Mr. Xiu, do you have any good ideas? Or are you, Mr. Journey to the West, ready to give up your career as a bounty hunter and find a way to become a mind killer? Faced with Xiu's objections, Lin knew that he was worthy of Xiu's vote, but as a senior executive of the association, he must have countermeasures to face Xiu's attitude. If Lin shrinks this time, then everyone present will understand Lin's bottom line, and he will probably face a situation where he is restricted in every way. When Xiu heard Lin's rhetorical question, he naturally understood that the mind-killing master was confronting him, but he didn't have a good way to refute it. Xiu looked nonchalant on the surface, but after thinking about it secretly, he said, no matter what you say, I won't agree. The position of exclusive soul expeller is meant to serve the association. I will never allow someone to enjoy the association's resources and also ask for compensation from the association. Listening to Xiu's rebuttal, Lin knew that Xiu was running out of words, but he did not reveal his purpose. The current method was completely rogue. Thinking of this, Lin decided to test it out. Since he couldn't guess what the other party was thinking, he would let the other party expose himself. Hearing this, Lin smiled slightly and agreed, I agree with Mr. Xiu's objection. You can keep your opinion. It doesn't matter to me at all. Then, Lin leaned on the chair, looked around everyone, and asked, does anyone else have any opinions? Everyone remained silent after hearing this. Everyone knew in their hearts that since Zia raised objections, how could this matter be passed due to reservations? Zia would definitely not give up so easily. Seeing that Lin was completely ignoring him, Zia slapped his hand directly on the conference table, making a pop sound. This sound attracted everyone's attention. Lin raised his eyebrows and joked, "Mr. Zia, are your hands itchy?" Listening to Lin's provocative words, Zia sternly said, "Boy, don't go too far." Hee hee. Lin chuckled twice and asked, "What do you want?" "Boy. I've tolerated you for a long time, fight me. I want to teach you how to respect your seniors." Hearing Lin's laughter, Zia said angrily. At this time, Chen Long Porter stood up and said loudly, "Journey to the west, we are having a meeting, not gangsters on the street grabbing territory. Conflicts must be resolved through meetings." "Yes. I feel the same way. Calm down and go to the west." Sishigalu, who was beside Lin, advised him. "It's so interesting." Piorn put down his phone and joked, "It's such an interesting picture, I don't even have the time to play with my phone anymore." Wu Ma Sekiu, sitting in the seat, as a two-star trouble hunter, realized that something was wrong and hurriedly tried to persuade him, "Everyone has something to say, so why bother?" Then, Shu looked at Nitro and asked, "You think so, President?" Hearing this, Nitro said thoughtfully, "Conflicts are inevitable, but if you want to resolve them, I don't count on what I said." Chapter 140. The development of things can be said to be within Nitro's expectation, or it can be said to be beyond Nitro's expectation. However, Nitro is happy to see this phenomenon happen. Some even feel that the conflict caused by Rin is a bit small, and it would be better to trigger a larger conflict, which would be more interesting. Nitro looked at Lin and asked, "Lin, how are you preparing?" Hearing this, Lin said to Zia, "I've been doing this for a long time, isn't it just for a fight? Don't you dare." Zia put away his casual expression and narrowed his eyes. Seeing the two people disagreeing and preparing to fight, most of the earthly branches thought they had guessed the idea of traveling to the west. As we all know, because of their focus on eliminating thoughts, the general combatability of the mind-killing masters is not strong, and it can even be said that they are pitifully weak. For the earthly branches present, the dissatisfaction shown by Journey to the West in the face of Lin, who came up with the idea of removing the human resources, was also a scene they were happy to see. These people feel that Journey to the West is prepared to speak with strength, and it is a good way to make Lin realize that the Hunter Association is a place where strength speaks for itself. In short, the thinking of these people is that what is the use of poor strength and good intentions? We should not just hide behind us when we are in danger. For some things, we just need to be honest and follow the arrangements of the association. Before, during Dizzy's persuasion, Lin knew the thoughts of these people. He said that he was using language to mediate, which was clearly to stimulate the journey to the west. Looking at Journey to the West in front of him, Lin had already roughly guessed the purpose of Paris Stone and Journey to the West. As for other issues, they still needed to be confirmed bit by bit. But Lin was not in a hurry at all. The initiative was always in his hands. Even a fight with Zia would be good for him to gain a foothold in the association and greatly reduce his planning process. Looking at Zia, who exuded a dangerous aura in front of him, Lin said decisively, "You choose the location." Seeing that Lin agreed to him without hesitation, Zia looked at Nitro and asked, "President, is there no one in the Time Association's martial arts hall at this time?" Nitro pretended to think for a while and replied, "You can go there. Although you don't agree with anyone, but if you want to distinguish the superior from the inferior, there must be a lucky draw, right?" Hearing this, Zia was stunned. He didn't expect Nitro to make such a request at this time. And Lin naturally knew what Nitro was thinking. On the one hand, he wanted to tell everyone present that this person was from my side. On the other hand, it is to gain some benefits for Lin in this matter. After all, he knows Lin's strength and has absolute confidence in Lin, which means that this fight can be fought, but this fight cannot be in vain. "What do you want?" 10 telekinetic prisoners. Dream. Seeing the two people arguing, Wu Ma Sekiu stood up and said, "Can you two pause for a moment?" Hearing this, the two of them looked towards Shu, wanting to see what the troubled hunter wanted to do. "Why don't you two take a step back? If Westward Journey wins, Mr. Lin's salary for this association's task of eradicating thoughts will be halved. On the other hand, if Mr. Lin wins, how about Mr. Zio giving Lin 3 prisoners? Hearing this, Lin laughed and said, this seems unfair. Shu smiled slightly and explained, what if we, together with all the earthly branches, agree to Mr. Lin's proposal? Oh! Mr. Shu can represent all the earthly branches. Lin joked. Shu waved his hands repeatedly and said hurriedly, isn't everyone here? Just ask if you can. Afterwards, Shu organized some words and asked the earthly branches present, everyone, originally I didn't want to see this happen, but now the conflict between Ziu and Lin must be mediated through a battle. You all heard what I said just now. What do you think? After hearing Shu's words, Yuji Crook replied, the price of 200 prisoners is indeed a bit high. Why don't we try another way? I don't know what Mr. Lin wants. I think my proposal will definitely satisfy Mr. Lin's requirements and satisfy all the earthly branches at the same time. Crook's speech made Lin feel interested and asked, what proposal? Crook explained, assuming Mr. Lin wins, the association will do its best to help Mr. Lin pay for the cost of eradicating Nian. As for the price of the prisoner who has the ability to read, it will be determined based on the bounty obtained by removing the thought. The guarantee will be negotiated by our 12 earthly branches. Hearing Crook's proposal, Lin nodded and said calmly, okay. Although Lin's expression was dull, he knew in his heart that this was the best answer he had received so far. For the 200 telepathic prisoners previously proposed, Lin had the idea of raising the price at a low price. He also knew that this number would not be easy for the Hunter Association. It is important to know that the amount of thought removal depends on how many thoughts are stored on the object. There is no clear cost at all, and Lin does not think this condition will be passed. But before there was any specific discussion, Ziu, a young man, jumped out. In order to find out the purpose of Ziu's actions, Lin argued with him. But now the proposal put forward by Crook can completely reach the upper limit of Lin's current acquisition, and even exceed expectations. It is impossible to disagree. After hearing that Lin agreed, Shu said to everyone present, what do you think? Agree. Agree. The earthly branches present all expressed their opinions and agreed to Crook's proposal. After everyone agreed, Crook breathed a sigh of relief and said slowly, if Journey to the West is successful, all the association's backlog of tasks related to eradication of thoughts will be borne by Mr. Lin alone. Isn't this fair? Hearing Crook's second suggestion, Lin immediately knew that it was an overreach. This kind of troublemaking behavior means that Crook is completely betting on Journey to the West. Jin and Nitro also understood Crook's purpose, which was ostensibly to agree on the conditions for their victory. In fact, what he said was completely on the side of westward journey. It was obvious that he did not think that Lin had the possibility of victory. More importantly, if westward journey wins, Rin needs to bear all the costs. But if Rin wins, he also needs to complete all the tasks of eradicating thoughts. As for the guarantee Crook mentioned, this can completely use one of the cooperation tasks with V5 as a bargaining chip in negotiations with V5. This is completely a white wolf's behavior. It can be said that the proposals of the two parties seem to be fair and equal, but in fact it is Lin who suffers. Chapter 141. Crook's partiality was very obvious, and his purpose was to cause confusion to everyone present. This kind of confusion treats Rin as an independent group and puts Journey to the West at the level of the Hunter Association. The equivalence of the two sides is completely different. Although everyone present can see it, no one will say it clearly. The balance point that Crook found is also quite clever. On the one hand, it allowed Zihu to make the bet at almost no cost, but on the other hand, it paid Lin enough in disguise. Through this disguised equivalence, Crook made both parties temporarily speechless. Even if Lin strongly opposes this proposal, in the end, the one who loses the most is himself. After all, unilaterally speaking, Crook's proposal had reached the limit of the benefits that Lin could gain, and the price he paid was just a victory in the battle. From this point of view, Lin knew that there was no need to refuse at all. It didn't matter how much Ziho paid. He had a way to make the people behind Ziho bleed. After thinking for a moment, Lin slowly said, I agree to this proposal. The moment Lin agreed, everyone present looked in disbelief. The earthly branches knew that with the wisdom of the young man in front of them, it was impossible not to see the trap in Crook's words. This can only mean one thing. This young man is probably sure of victory. Lin looked at the people with different expressions in front of him, sneered deep in his heart, and said to himself, I can roughly guess what you guys are thinking, but you are only standing on the first floor, and I have already reached the top. Hearing Lin's agreement, Ziyu said, then let's go. President, please be the notary of our battle. No problem. Nitro agreed. Then, he said to the bean-faced man, Ziyadu, go and notify the people and clear out the martial arts hall. The bean-faced man stood up from his seat and said seriously, I will contact the martial arts hall to clear the place now. After saying that, the bean-faced man took out his mobile phone and started to make contact. A few minutes later, the bean-faced man replied, the martial arts hall has begun to clear out. We should just finish it now. Hearing this, Ziyu said anxiously, then what are you waiting for? Let's go there quickly. I can't wait to teach this arrogant guy a lesson. Hearing Ziyu's provocation, Lin smiled disdainfully and said mockingly, haven't you heard that villains die from talking too much? At this moment, Ziyu and Lin looked at each other, and the anger in their eyes could not be concealed at all. The bean-faced man walked to the door and reminded, everyone, please come with me. Humph. Ziyu snorted coldly and followed the bean-faced man out, with everyone following closely behind. Rin mingled silently among the crowd, not because he didn't want to go forward, but because he didn't know the way to the martial arts hall at all. Led by the bean-faced man, the group of people walked toward the martial arts hall. The high-level officials of the Hunter Association went out together, which naturally attracted the attention of employees within the association. However, in everyone's impression, there seemed to be one more person at the top of the association. Seeing the extra figures among the senior officials, the staff of the Hunter Association began to speculate about Rin's identity among them. It wasn't until Lin's group of people gradually disappeared that the staff started a small-scale discussion. Under the leadership of Dumianren, the association's top management quickly arrived at the entrance of the martial arts hall, and the staff of the martial arts hall had been waiting at the door for some time. Under the gaze of everyone, the bean-faced man stepped forward to hand over the work. After a few short exchanges, the staff turned around and left. The bean-faced man turned around, looked at everyone and said, now the martial arts hall has been emptied. No one is allowed to enter before we come out. Now please come with me, we are going to the battle site next. Lin looked at the huge martial arts gym in front of him and couldn't help but sigh at the wealth of the Hunter Association. In Lin's sight, the Budokan was a circular building occupying a large area. After entering it, he felt that the interior was even more special. After following the bean-faced man for a while, Lin discovered that the martial arts hall has various venues that can be used for teaching and fighting. It can be said to be a very practical building. Okay. We're here. The bean-faced man stopped, turned around and said to everyone. Everyone looked at the sand in front of them, and the bean-faced man explained, this is the largest fighting venue in the Budokan, with a fighting range of 3 kilometers. Because it is sandy ground, you too can destroy it without any scruples during the battle, but please be careful when using the release system. After all, the maintenance of the martial arts hall consumes the association's funds. Lin nodded when he heard this, and then looked in the direction of westward journey. Ziyu happened to also look over, and the moment their eyes met in the air, they both exuded powerful pressure. At this time, Nitro walked between the two of them and said calmly, now is not the time to start a war. You can only start the duel when you go to the middle of the sand. This duel will be judged by me, Porter Bai, and Jinfulis. Whoever loses the ability to resist first or admits defeat will determine the victory of the other side. Hearing this, Lin smiled slightly and said, I wish you could do it. The brat who talks nonsense is really annoying. Ziyu muttered something, then used his legs to jump directly to the central area of the sand, and made a provocative expression towards Lin. Seeing Ziyu's move, Lin walked over unhurriedly, standing in opposition to Ziyu. It's really interesting. By the way, why don't we play a game and take a gamble? Yu Pian stared at the two people on the field with excited eyes and said. After Pioern finished speaking, Viang Yinda said, I'll open the market, westward journey pays 1 for 2, Lin pays 1 for 1.5, there is no limit to the amount of money. Hearing this, Pian became energetic and shouted in the direction of Lin, wait a minute, let's place the bet first. Hearing Pioern's words, Lin also became interested, and walked towards Pioern's direction regardless of Ziyu who was standing opposite. Jinfulis looked at Lin who was walking over and asked, do you also want to get involved? No rush. Lin looked at the figures of the earthly branches placing their bets, with a smile on his lips. Nitro walked up to Jin, looked at the two of them with a chuckle, and said, what an energetic young man, it's so lively. Just as Nitro finished speaking, Jin and Lin looked at Nitro's smile with a hint of a smirk on their lips. Seeing that everyone had chosen their bets, Lin and Jin walked over slowly. Before they could say anything, Nitro's voice came from beside them. I'll come and join in the fun. 50 billion ring nillion wins. Chapter 142. Hearing Nitro's voice, Jin and Lin said in unison, same. Hearing this, Yinda was stunned for a moment, and then asked, do you have such great confidence? Of course. The two said in unison. Okay. Now that you have decided, don't blame me if you lose, but, don't blame me for not reminding you that Ziyu is a bounty hunter, and his combat power must be terrifying. Yinda warned Lin while tallying up the bet amount on the paper he got from the bean-faced man. Seeing Yinda's actions, Jin Fulis asked curiously, what are the betting amounts? Hold on. Yinda checked it and replied, Journey to the West is 200 billion Ni, and Lin is 170 billion Ni. Hearing this, Lin said doubtfully, the president, the total gold is 150 billion ring Nig, who is depositing the remaining 20 billion ring Nigeria. It's Chai Duo. Except for Paristan, who didn't place a bet, everyone else bet on Journey to the West to win. Yinda's brows were furrowed, as if he was not satisfied with the result, and then his eyes shifted to the direction of the westward journey. Ziyu, Lin bet on himself to win, didn't you show any sign of it? Yinda shouted towards Ziyu. Hearing this, Ziyu replied, you still need to ask about this kind of thing. How much ordination that guy gives will be the same as mine. Upon hearing Ziyu's reply, Yinda smiled and her frown disappeared instantly. Seeing this scene, Lin had already begun to doubt whether Yinda had the ability to see clearly a person's fighting power. Jin felt Lin's doubts and whispered to Lin, although this guy Yinda looks simple and honest, he is actually not simple at all. You can tell from the odds he gave that this guy has long recognized that you will definitely win. Lin replied in a low voice, why? Can Yinda see a person's fighting ability? After hearing Lin's question, Jin did not answer his question, but asked instead, how many of these people do you think are simple? The same goes for you, Lin. Jin's question was very explicit, and Lin knew that this was Jin telling himself that he should never explore other people's secrets too much, and never judge a person's level easily based on their appearance. Hearing Jin's warning, Lin nodded and said calmly, understood. After Lin finished speaking, he walked in the direction of westward journey. He knew that this fight had to be fought, and the harder he fought westward journey, the greater the benefits he would gain. This is also the last step for Lin to complete the second step of his plan. After completing this step, the second step of standing up will be completely achieved. In Lin's opinion, this was thanks to the opportunity given by Journey to the West. He only needed to use the trick to achieve his goal, saving a lot of energy. In contrast, this fight must establish its own reputation. Through this display of force, the deterrence generated has allowed the Hunter Association to gain a firm foothold, and at the same time, it has established an image in the minds of the association's top brass. But it all depends on one starting point, that is, how to win. There is a difference between a hard win and an easy win. The more comfortable this victory is, the higher Lin's evaluation will be in the minds of the association's senior leaders. Who wouldn't like a mind-buster who can save lives and has strong fighting ability? Making up his mind secretly, Lin looked at Ziyu not far away and said to himself, I've been upset with you bastard for a long time, so I'd just like to take this opportunity to kill the monkey and show the chicken. Start. As Potter's voice appeared, a stick appeared in Ziyu's hand, and he used two stick tricks to rush towards Lin. Ryan is clear about Journey to the West's abilities. One is the Ruyi stick, a tangible weapon that can be freely expanded and retracted. The other is to control the ability to connect thoughts, listening monkey, seeing monkey and speaking monkey. If touched by these monkeys, the corresponding five senses will be deprived. In the original work, Ziyu introduced his abilities in detail. After being verified by Kurapika's soul-chasing chain, what Ziyu said was no lie. But Lin, who understands the hunter world, knows that a mature professional hunter will never expose his telekinesis ability easily, especially a traitor like Journey to the West. Lin once guessed that Ziyu must have hidden some of his abilities. According to the five senses, the other party would probably also deprive him of touch and smell to gather the real five senses. Facing the stick swung from Ziyu, Lin pulled his palm in the air, and Wu Shang appeared in Lin's hand instantly. Kang! The knife and the stick came into contact, and the two sides fell into a confrontation for a moment. It's just that Zio was obviously the attacking party, and the long stick in his hand was used to make it airtight. On the other hand, Lin's performance was completely on the defensive, without any offensive intentions between Wu Sheng's swings. The people watching the battle gathered in the distance, looked at the two people fighting, and started talking one after another. Journey to the West is indeed a professional bounty hunter, and his physical abilities are quite strong. Wu Ma Shu watched the battle between the two and commented directly. That's right. But Lin's sword skills are also very powerful. Aren't all telekinesis masters weak? Why is this guy so stable? Is he an enhancement type? Sishigalo asked her doubts after a short observation. Qianlong Potterbay replied, it's impossible. Except for telepathy masters, they are basically of the trait type, with only a minority of other types. Moreover, Lin's character is not like the enhancement type at all. Potter is right. And aren't you surprised? During the battle with Xiu, Lin always used a handheld knife to fight. Cheeto adjusted his glasses and analyzed. Hearing this, everyone focused most of their attention on Lin. At this moment, everyone suddenly realized that they had thought something was strange before. After hearing Chai Duo's explanation, they instantly discovered the problem that they had ignored before. Crook asked, perhaps Lin is of the style of holding a knife with one hand. Chai Duo nodded and said thoughtfully, it's also possible, but let's keep watching. This battle will tell us the answer. Everyone nodded after hearing this. Most people had great confidence in Journey to the West before, but now it seems that they have underestimated Lin. During the battle, Lin constantly defended against Xiu's attacks. Seeing that Xiu was already firing some real fire, while blocking Xiu's stick, he used the power of the stick to draw a few meters away behind him. After standing still, Lin looked at Xiu, showed a disdainful smile, and said lightly, your physical skills are just like this, I will give you the opportunity to use your telekinesis ability, otherwise you will have no chance to resist. Chapter 143. Hearing Lin's words, Xiu showed a cautious expression. After just a physical competition, Xiu found that no matter how he attacked, he could not break Lin's defense. This can only mean one thing, that is, the guy in front of me is probably on par with him in terms of physical skills, or even better than him. But what Xiu doesn't know is that Lin's condition is not very good. On the surface, he seems to be doing well, but in fact, he is just holding on. However, through a simple battle, Lin almost understood Xiu's strength and knew that it would not be difficult for him to defeat him. If you just want to be beautiful and leave a deep impression on everyone, you need to work harder. It seems that I have been underestimated. Although as a telekinesis master, your combat ability surprises me, but the combat aspect of telekinesis ability has always been the weakness of telekinesis masters. Xiu shook his stick, smiled coldly, looked at Lin and said, don't blame me for bullying you. Hearing this, Lin picked his ears and said with a disdainful expression, didn't I tell you? Villains die from talking too much. Why don't you understand? I want to see how arrogant you can get. Xiu said unhappily, and three thoughts floated out of his body. The moment the chanting ball landed on the ground, 3 monkeys with speech, sight and listening written on their heads appeared on the ground. Come on! Hold him! Xiu looked at the neon beast in front of him and ordered, with strong confidence in his tone. Seeing the neon beast summoned by Journey to the West, Mao Tubjorn said in surprise. Ah! Is that the telekinesis ability of Journey to the West? This is the first time I've seen it. Everyone present nodded when they heard this. Not only Pian, everyone present also saw Xiu's telekinesis ability for the first time. Paristan said with a faint smile, there are actually 3 telekinesis beasts. It seems that Journey to the West's telekinesis ability is extraordinary. Hearing Paristan's evaluation, Chen Long Porter said thoughtfully, this is a manifestation of the strength of Journey to the West. Judging from the shapes of these neon beasts, it is obvious that these are not just neon beasts. Everyone present is the top talent in the hunter world, and their vision is naturally extraordinary. Just seeing Journey to the West's telekinesis ability, they all expressed their opinions. Jin Fulasi, who was watching the battle, saw Lin, who was still calm in the face of the 3 mind beasts, showing an interested expression, and said to himself, it looks like it will be very interesting. Nitro also had the same idea as Jin. They had roughly guessed Lin's purpose of doing this, but what they were most curious about was the process by which Lin accomplished his purpose. In the eyes of everyone, Lin looked at the approaching neon beast with confidence and pinned the long knife on his back, completely giving up resistance. Everyone who saw this scene, including Xiu, had expressions of surprise and deep confusion in their eyes. They didn't understand what Lin's purpose was. Xiu couldn't understand Lin's purpose, but he knew that now was a good opportunity to attack, and he would never let go of this kind of flaw. Are you ready to sit back and wait for death? What a cowardly mind killer! As if he had declared victory in advance, Xiu watched the three mind beasts clinging to Lin's body. Seeing this scene, two words flashed in the minds of most of the spectators: it's over. The moment he was clung to by the three mind beasts, Lin lost his vision, language, and hearing. But he could clearly feel that two monkeys hugged his arms and one monkey hugged his thigh. This was a sign that the sense of touch had not been lost. Seeing Lin being controlled by his telekinesis, Xiu had a proud smile on his face. He didn't expect that this battle would be won so easily. Holding a long stick in his hand, Xiu slowly walked up to Lin. He was not prepared to decide the outcome so simply. Although he had other motives for triggering the battle with Lin this time, being so despised also made him feel that Lin must pay a corresponding price. Everyone watching the battle saw Xiu walking towards Lin, and understood what Xiu was thinking at the moment, but none of them said anything to stop him, not even Nitro and Jin Fulisi. After all, the victory condition of this battle is whoever loses the ability to resist first or admits defeat can decide the outcome. As long as Rin did not admit defeat or was seriously injured to the point of losing consciousness, no one present, including Nitro, was in a position to stop him. But contrary to what everyone thought, Nitro and Jin Fulisi showed expressions of interest on their faces. Both of them knew in their hearts that Lin could do more than that, and that he must have his own plan in it, and the upcoming reversal was what they were focused on. Xiu strolled up to Lin and looked at Lin, who was controlled by three mind beasts, with a look of contempt in his eyes. There is no need to feel anything else. Xiu is very clear about his telekinesis ability. Once Lin is controlled by his telekinesis ability, there is absolutely no room for resistance. Having lost his hearing, vision, and language functions, Lin must be in a dark world at this time. That feeling of being unable to resist and leading to despair, Journey to the West has already experienced it from the various performances of the enemy in countless battles. Looking at the three telekinesis beasts hugging Lin, Xiu knew that as long as he did not release his telekinesis ability, Narian would never be able to escape his current situation, and he had strong confidence in this. Xiu's eyes were contemptuous, and he raised the ruyi stick in his hand high. The moment he raised it high, he said, "Let me end your helplessness, and be obedient next time." After Xiu finished speaking, and when he was about to give Lin the final blow, something beyond his knowledge happened. Suddenly, Lin, who was under the control of Xiu Nian's ability, grabbed the ruyi stick on Xiu's chest with his left hand at lightning speed. What? Xiu couldn't help but lost his voice after seeing this scene. He really couldn't understand why Lin was able to break free from his control. After all, in thousands of battles, the role played by the three mind beasts had already given Xiu strong confidence. Everyone watching the battle also looked at this scene in surprise. Only Jin Fulisi and Nitro showed such expressions. Although everyone does not know the true function of the Journey to the West Nian beast, they can make some guesses based on their experience. You can tell by looking at Lin's state after being hugged by the Nian beast. At first glance, he is a Nian beast with its own control ability. But judging from the way Lin accurately grasped the ruyi stick, it was obvious that he was not controlled or had escaped from control. But the Nian beast is still attached to Lin, which proves that Xiu's Nian ability has not failed. Even Journey to the West didn't understand how Lin did it. At this time, an idea appeared in everyone's mind at the same time, and that was to eliminate Nian. Chapter 144. When Lin grabbed Xiu's ruyi stick, Xiu, who had not expected it, was caught off guard by this sudden scene and was slightly stunned. Then, with a surprised look on his face, Xiu saw that the mind beast holding Lin's body began to turn into dots of light and began to dissipate, even the ruyi stick in his hand did the same. But in this moment of confusion for less than a second, Lin caught the flaw, and a chain came out of the ground, locking Xiu tightly. The chains wrapped around Xiu's whole body and even sealed Xiu's mouth, which meant that Xiu lost the possibility of surrendering and admitting defeat. Xiu, who was entangled in chains, fell into trouble. The moment he was blocked by the chains, he felt that his body automatically fell into a state of absolute. In his current state, it was impossible to organize an effective counterattack, and he couldn't even escape from the current state of being restrained by chains. With eyes filled with doubts, Xiu looked at Lin, who was smiling. He knew that Lin was a mind killer, but this method of mind-killing made him unable to figure it out even if he thought hard. Among the people present, except for Jin Fulasi, even Nitro had never seen Lin's way of eliminating thoughts. They all looked surprised when they saw the situation in front of them reversed. Hey! Hey, are you serious? Is this the removal of thoughts? Yinhu Kangzai said with an incredulous tone. Chen Long Porter said thoughtfully, it seems so, but this kind of eradication of thoughts. Potter, do you think this kind of eradication is different from the usual way of eradicating thoughts? Jin Fulasi's voice came, attracting everyone's attention. Everyone was curious about what Jin, who had remained silent from the meeting until now, wanted to express. With a smile, Jin Fulasi looked at the bound Ziyu and Lin who had released each other's mind, and said categorically, why do you think mind killers must be weak? Needless to say, through past experience, we have to know that people are different. It is stupid to put this concept on people with telekinesis abilities. After hearing the explanation given by Jin, everyone seemed to be enlightened. They looked in the direction of the battlefield and fell into deep thought. Only Nitro saw this situation, with a strong smile in his eyes, and seemed quite satisfied with Lin's performance. Time goes back to before the battle begins. For Lin, it was difficult for him to lose the battle with Ziyu, but the vigilance he had maintained along the way told him that he must be more cautious at this time. Lin knew very well that there were two factors that determined the outcome between himself and Journey to the West. The first was the gap in combat effectiveness, and the other was the crushing intelligence. Therefore, Lin decided to play it safe. In this battle, he must win beautifully and at the same time show his own strength. It is best to surround himself with a layer of mystery. On the surface, it seems that Lin gave up resistance and was controlled by Ziyu's telekinesis ability. In fact, Lin's series of actions were completely foreshadowing the subsequent plan. In order to prevent Ziyu from being wary of Xiao Bai's appearance, Lin positioned Xiao Bai's appearance in the sand under his feet. The moment he felt that he was controlled by Ziyu's telekinesis ability, Lin silently felt his state for a few seconds. After confirming that it was exactly the same as what he had imagined, he directly communicated with Xiao Bai and entered the dragon pattern mode with a thought. Because Xiao Bai entered Lin's body from the sand, no one present noticed. Under Lin's deliberate control, Xiao Bai's devouring of the Journey to the West Nian beast was suppressed. Do enough superficial work to make Ziyu think that Lin is still under his control. Then he used Wu Sheng, who had pinned it behind his back before, to hide the knife lock along his thigh, and went deep into the sand to lay a trap. Now controlled by Dao Suo and forced into despair, Journey to the West has completely become Lin's thorn in the earth. Although with the strength of Journey to the West, Lin made this plan a bit redundant. But for the other earthly branches, this scene added a layer of mystery to Lin's unpredictable strength. This is 1,800 times better than a normal battle, and the effect of victory is exactly what Lin wants. Looking at Ziyu who was wrapped in chains in front of him, a smile appeared on the corner of Lin's mouth, and he mocked, "It's not that I don't give you a chance, but you are useless." Ziyu. After Lin finished speaking, he looked at Ziyu's angry eyes and said as if he suddenly realized, "Oh, I almost forgot, you can't speak. But it doesn't matter. This won't stop me from beating you up at all." After saying this, Lin took Wu Sheng's left hand, slowly raised his fist, looked at Ziyu's eyes full of anger and fear, and said slowly, "There is only one reason for your defeat, and that is that you underestimated the Master of Nian. The power of. Now, you have to pay for your contempt. Please pay attention next time. Don't make an enemy of a mind-killing master easily." Mr. Journey to the West. In the eyes of everyone, Lin landed a heavy punch. The moment it hit Ziyu's face was directly hammered to the ground, splashing a lot of sand and dust. Lin looked at Ziyu who fell on the ground, then looked at the blood on his fists, and asked doubtfully, "Aren't you going to admit defeat? As expected of the 12 earthly branches, you are really a tough guy." After saying that, in the eyes of everyone, Lin rode on Ziyu and punched Ziyu's face one after another. The earthly branches who watched this scene were surprised. They did not expect such a reversal of the plot. They thought that Lin might win, but the possibility was extremely slim, and there might even be a disastrous victory. It's just that after this battle, in just a few minutes, Lin pressed Ziyu to the ground and rubbed him from all aspects. At this time, there was a threat in most people's minds. If Journey to the West was defeated so easily, would they? While everyone was deep in thought, Paristan reminded, "Why don't you go and see it? I'm afraid that Journey to the West really has to say goodbye to everyone. After Pariston finished speaking, the earthly branches all ran towards Lin. Only Nitro and Jinfulisi were not in a hurry and walked over slowly. Walking closer, Chai Duo saw the miserable situation of Journey to the West, and suddenly couldn't bear it, and persuaded, Lin, you have already won, stop it. Hearing this, Lin stopped punching as expected, turned back to look at Chai Duo with a puzzled expression, and asked, stop? But Mr. Ziu hasn't given up yet. My stopping now is disrespectful to Mr. Ziu. I must fulfill my responsibilities as a junior. Hearing this, Crook looked helpless and said with shame, look at him, does he look like he can speak? Hearing this, Lin suddenly realized, that's right. I almost forgot that Mr. Ziu can't speak. Lin said in a pretentious manner, and raised his hand to punch Ziu again. This scene made everyone present feel ashamed, especially when they saw Ziu's miserable face, they felt a chill. Chapter 145. At this time, Ziu was lying on the ground, his face swollen like a pig's head, and a few teeth punched out by Lin could be seen in the blood. The earthly branches present were covered in chills, and they looked at Lin with deep fear in their eyes. This situation was naturally expected by Lin. By reaching into his pocket, Lin took out a piece of white silk cloth from the storage room. While wiping his hands, he wondered, how did this guy join the 12 earthly branches in the first place when he is so weak? Everyone looked at Lin, who was wiping his hands and looking as if nothing had happened. They were so embarrassed that they didn't know how to answer for a moment. This was of course done intentionally by Lin. The words that preempted others directly identified Ziu's strength and once again made it clear to the earthly branches about his strength. Everyone knows that as a bounty hunter, Ziu is definitely not weak. But it was too easy for Rin to win in this battle. Even if they replaced themselves with Rin's identity, it would be difficult for them to do so easily. When everyone was silent, Nitro and Jinfulis also walked over. Looking at the tragic situation in Journey to the West and Lin who was wiping his hands, Nitro chuckled and said, Lin, it's exactly what you said. Just fight if you don't accept it. Later, Nitro looked at Ziu who was beaten into a pig's head, and asked in a slightly puzzled tone, I wonder if Ziu has served. After hearing Nitro's words, Lin suddenly decided to use the communication with Nitro to release some information to further improve his image. After wiping the blood off his hands, Lin said humbly, Mr. Nitro is joking. You should know that I like to persuade people with virtue the most. Haha. Nitro didn't say anything, but instead squinted his eyes and laughed. At this time, the earthly branches who understood the situation were all shocked, and Mao Tugbjorn even lost his voice and said, Teacher. Hearing this, Nitro naturally knew what Lin was thinking, and explained, by the way, before I had time to tell you, yesterday Lin agreed to become my only disciple. After finishing the trivial matters, Lin is going to practice with me for a while. Joniu Milistan asked, President, I thought you wouldn't accept disciples. After all, even for those who are very talented, you can only give a few pointers. Even in your heart stream, you have only left behind the cultivation methods. Nitro nodded and said with a slightly proud tone, Lin is different. In my opinion, his future achievements will definitely be above me. Originally, Lin's performance was equivalent to putting the earthly branches on the fire. When Lin revealed his relationship with Nitro, it added fuel to the fire among the earthly branches. But now after Nitro's evaluation, it has completely improved Lin to countless levels. That is equivalent to the fact that the moment the earthly branches were put on the grill, they were already roasted by the fire, and they had completely given up the idea of comparing themselves with Lin in their hearts. After all, let alone the future, even now, there is an insurmountable gap between them and Lin, and the fate of Journey to the West just proves this point. Lin wiped his hands clean, threw the blood-stained silk cloth aside, and said slowly, Now that I have won, I hope you can cooperate to complete this matter as agreed. In addition, because of the price of my elimination of thoughts, I hope to be able to prepare the price of elimination of thoughts in advance. Of course, when the association accepts the task of eradicating thoughts, it can charge more handling fees as appropriate. I won't care about this. Hearing this, the earthly branches nodded one after another, and no one said anything. After all, this was what was agreed upon from the beginning. After hearing this, the bean-faced man replied, Don't worry, the association will find a dedicated person to take charge of this matter. When it is ready, Mr. Lin will be contacted, but... After a pause, the bean-faced man looked embarrassed and continued, it's just that the coordination of all this takes time, and Mr. Lin needs to stay in the association all the time. Lin thought about it and said without hesitation, no problem, I will practice with teacher Nitro during this period and stay in the association for a while. Hearing what Lin said, the bean-faced man suddenly felt confident. What he was most afraid of was that Lin was like Jin Fulasi, who was difficult to contact when needed. In that case, I'll make arrangements. The bean-faced man said this and prepared to go back to the association to deal with the matter. Seeing Do Mian Man preparing to leave, Porter Bai hurriedly said, Mr. Do, please arrange for someone to send Zihu to the hospital. After all, it doesn't look like he's lying here. I have informed you about this matter, and the medical room of the Budokan has sent someone over. The bean-faced man said something and left quickly. At this time, Viang Yinda reminded, please don't forget to transfer the amount mentioned before to my account. After all, I still have to pay bonuses to the winners. Hearing this, those earthly branches who had bet on the victory of Journey to the West suddenly realized that they were so serious about watching the battle that they almost forgot about it. Yinhu Kangze said, it's only a few billion, how could we default on it? Then Kangze looked at Lin and asked, does what you said before still count? Hearing Kangze's words, Lin certainly knew what Kangze meant and replied affirmatively, it definitely counts. This is the first time that you don't need to pay a deposit. But I want to state in advance that the order is first come, first served. Don't blame me if you fall behind. Upon hearing this, Yinhu Kangze walked out of the venue without saying a word. He didn't start running until he walked out of the martial arts hall. All the earthly branches naturally knew what Kangze meant. Treasure hunters were in great need of a mind-killing master. Seeing that Kangze was already making preparations, most of the earthly branches present were not to be left behind and began to say goodbye and leave. Seeing that most of the people had left, Paristan also knew that there was no need for him to stay here, so he said goodbye and left the martial arts hall under the pretext of being busy with official duties. Seeing that most of the people had left, Lin knew very well that his second step plan had been completely completed and he had completely established a foothold in the Hunter Association. The second step of the plan, establishing oneself, has been successful, and the third step is called establishing one's trust. In short, it is to make your credibility deeply rooted in people's hearts and create a sense of trust. However, this part of the plan requires a certain amount of time to accumulate, and it will never be established as quickly as the first two steps. Now, only 3 people, Lin, Nitro, and Jin Fulasi, are left in the entire martial arts hall. Jin walked up to Ziyu, looked at Ziyu's swollen face, and praised, Lin, you did a good job. Now you have successfully gained a foothold. Those people may not have time to curry favor with you in the future. Hearing this, Lin shrugged helplessly and said helplessly, you know, I hate violence the most. This is just a last resort. Chapter 146. Pooh. Jin looked at Lin with a suspicious expression, feeling quite like I believed you. Suddenly, Nitro stroked his beard and said, Lin, I will give you strict instructions during this period. You must be prepared to face death. Hearing this, Lin was stunned and said happily, yes, Teacher Nitro. Hearing that Lin was going to practice with Netero next, Jin was not ready to stay any longer. After all, the matters he came here this time have been dealt with, and there are still many headaches waiting for him. After taking a few steps, Jin suddenly thought of something, turned around and asked, by the way, Lin, how are you studying the divine characters? Lin said without hesitation, I have just started learning compound divine characters, and there is still a long way to go. Hearing this, Jin's expression was obviously stunned, and he walked out of the martial arts hall without looking back. Looking at the dazzling sunshine outside, Jin's mouth showed a smile and murmured, are you evil? After Jin left, Lin looked at Nitro and asked, Teacher, are we going to practice here next? Nitro thought for a while and replied, of course not. The venue here is too small and cannot bear the intensity of my teaching. I will make my own arrangements for this matter, so don't worry. Rin nodded thoughtfully and saw Nitro starting to walk outside the martial arts gym. After taking a look at Zio lying on the ground, Lin put away Wushan and followed Nitro without looking back, leaving the martial arts hall. Approaching the Hunter Association, Nitro said to Lin as he walked, Lin, what do you think about this mind-erasing mission? Hearing this, Lin pondered for a while and replied, I already have an idea. I am going to first solve a batch of resources that can be obtained immediately, and then focus on the V5 cooperation tasks. This idea is beyond my expectation, but regarding V5. Nitro's words paused, as if he had something to hide. Faced with such a situation, Lin couldn't help but guess that what Nitro was thinking was that the scope involved with V5 was too wide, and he couldn't determine the direction for a while. Nitro thought for a while, organized his words, and warned Lin, in the human world, you must not underestimate V5. Their power is not as simple as it appears. Hearing this, Lin nodded and responded, I remember, teacher. Okay, you rest first. I will inform you about your practice. Nitro said something, and then parted ways with Lin at the entrance of the association. Looking at the towering association building, Lin sighed in his heart, it seems that I have been quite busy during this period. Back in the room, because he had just fought in the sand environment, Reen took a shower and stayed in the room to wait for the next notification. Sitting on the sofa, Ryan ate high-end snacks from the storage room and began to plan the next route in his mind. At this high-level meeting of the association, Lin knew that he had executed his plan perfectly, and the effect was even better than expected. It's just the performance of Paris Stone and Journey to the West. For Lin, who has read the original work, he has already made some guesses. As for the final result, it is likely to be known in the next few days, and then the people behind them will pay the price. However, it is best to upgrade the prison to level 4 as soon as possible. Then we will be more confident to face the next thing. Making a decision secretly in his heart, Lin took out his cell phone and called Lieber. Beep, beep. Ryan, is something wrong? Before Lin could speak, Lieber's voice came from the other end of the phone. Hearing this, Lin asked, Lieber, I want to know when I can extract the prisoner. Lieber on the other end of the phone thought for a moment and replied, if you and I extract it in person, it may take about 7 days. If you are very urgent, this period will be shortened to 2 days, but you will lose the right to choose prisoners with telekinesis and have to pay a shipping fee. After listening to Lieber's explanation, Lin said without hesitation, how much is the shipping cost? Lieber replied, about 1 million nuns. Okay. No problem. I'll transfer the money to you. Please help me arrange it as soon as possible. My location is at the Hunter Association headquarters. But I hope you can help me get some prisoners with the most heinous crimes. If you need more money, you can just tell me. Lin decisively chose the second path. After all, what he lacked most now was time. And Lin can leave it to Lieber to select prisoners. Lin knew clearly in his heart that with his current status, he could say without politeness. The telepathic prisoners in the prison were like the chickens he raised. It doesn't matter which one he eats first, he will eat them all in the end. After confirming the general process with Lieber, Lin hung up the phone. Dong, dong. He stood up and checked the peacock with 7 colored feathers that was still drying. Just as Lin was about to take a nap, he heard a knock on the door. The door is unlocked, please come in. Reen said something and saw the bean-faced man walking in with 5 people. Among them, what caught Lin's attention the most was a slender woman wearing professional clothes and looking very capable behind Domian. When the bean-faced man entered the door, he said to Lin, excuse me. Mr. Lin. Lin nodded and saw the bean-faced man pointing at the few people behind him and saying, these people are the auxiliary personnel specially assigned by the association to Mr. Lin. After the bean-faced man finished speaking, the woman behind him stepped forward and introduced, nice to meet you. I am your assistant secretary, Hannah. These people behind me are all people who work with me to cooperate with you. After Hannah finished speaking, she raised her hand to take the document handed by the person behind her and sent it to Lin. Explained, this is the information of several of us. Except for me, who is responsible for your internal work arrangements in the association, several other people will cooperate with me. After listening, Lin nodded, opened the file handed over by Hannah, and looked at it carefully. The content on the document was very easy to understand, and the personal information of Hannah and others was written clearly. After checking the information of several people, Lin knew that this was the team that Domianran had arranged for him in the association. They were basically trustworthy, but there was no shortage of possibilities of being inserted into it. But this has little impact on Lin himself. The reason why he is in the association is just for the reward of the mission. Even if these people are all secret agents, they will not have any impact on him. On the contrary, these people will work hard because they must stay with Lin. Chapter 147. Looking at the staff headed by Hannah in front of him, Lin introduced, first time meeting. I am Lin Pester, and the rest of the work will be left to everyone. Hannah respectfully replied, "You're welcome, Mr. Lean. It's our honor to work with him." Facing Lean, Hannah cherished this opportunity very much. The bean-faced man had already expressed her anger with him in advance. She knew that the man in front of her was the upstart of the Hunter Association. As long as you work well under Lean and within your authority, you will be able to reap benefits, and your connections will increase with Lean. Nodding to Hannah, Lean said in a serious tone, "You are working under my hand, I will definitely not treat you badly, but..." After a few words, everyone present knew that this was a courtesy first and then an attack, and the important point was about to come. The scene suddenly became serious, and Lean continued, "If you can't satisfy me, I don't need to say more about the consequences." Hearing this, Hannah assured, "Mr. Lean, please rest assured that we are all selected professionals and we will definitely be qualified for this job. In this case, you will be responsible for communicating with me directly, and the rest of the staff will be managed by you. Except for some important matters that you need to ask me, I will give you the second decision-making authority." Without too much hesitation, Lean directly distributed the rights. After all, Lean didn't plan to stay in the association for a long time. With the speed at which he could eliminate his thoughts, it was enough to come to the association every once in a while. As for the arrangements for Hannah, although Lean had the mentality of letting go of the business, he knew that it was best to leave such professional matters to professionals. After a brief exchange of words with Hannah, Hannah left here with her men and threw herself into her new job. Watching Hannah leave, Lean knew that Hannah would definitely work overtime to sort out all the tasks for him, and she would make the rewards of the tasks clear. When Hannah's work comes to an end, the result for Lean will be the certificate of nomination she handed over. Seeing that the connection between the two parties was so successful, the bean-faced man knew that there was no need to stay here, so he said something and left. Lean looked at the empty room and decided to have a good sleep. After all, it might be difficult to have such a leisurely opportunity in the next time. After a night of silence, Lean took a rare nap the next day, and it was already noon when he woke up again. After getting out of bed, Lean simply washed up and ate something, and suddenly felt a little idle. After checking the drying peacock with colorful feathers again, Lean took out the materials inscribed with divine characters from the prison and began to study them seriously. Regarding the study of divine characters, Lean has entered the last stage that Jin knows. There are a total of 33 compound divine characters at this stage, some of which were excavated by Jin in the ruins and some deduced by Jin. The composition of these divine words is very complicated. With the strong foundation accumulated by Lean, he has only learned 18 of them. In Lean's opinion, the actual effect of these 18 compound divine words is not as powerful as the 189 basic divine words. But Lean guessed that such complicated words were definitely more than that. It was probably because he didn't find the right method, which prevented him from exerting the true power of these divine words. As time passed by, when Lean was immersed in the inscription of the divine words and felt that his mental power was too much, it was already night. Putting down the tools in his hands, Lean didn't clean up the layer of sawdust piled up at his feet. He threw himself directly on the bed and breathed evenly as soon as he closed his eyes. Diddy dip. The next morning, Lean was awakened by the ringing of the phone. After answering the phone at any time, Lieber's voice came from the other end of the phone. Listening to what Lieber said, Lean roughly understood what he meant. The general information is that the prisoners with telekinesis have been selected, but because it is troublesome to escort the prisoners, it will take about 2 days. He also told Lean to pay attention to answering the phone in the past 2 days, and someone would contact Lean. As for the freight was greatly discounted through Lieber's relationship. After being informed by Lieber, the cost of transporting the prisoners was discounted by 8%, and it only cost 8,000 million jins, and Lieber was very considerate and paid for it in advance. Hearing the good news brought by Lieber, Lean suddenly woke up, thanked Lieber, asked Lieber for his personal account, and promised to transfer the money to Lieber immediately. After hanging up the phone, Lean called Ford directly. After all, there was no need for him to do such a small thing as 8,000 million ringgits himself. Lean, this surprise you gave me is really big. That guy Picard is a genius. He makes money as fast as a money printing machine. As the call was connected, Ford's voice of surprise came from the other end of the phone. Hearing this, Lean was a little confused. He really couldn't remember who Picard was, so he asked, "Ford, please calm down. Who is Picard?" After hearing Lean's doubts, Ford began to explain. It wasn't until Ford finished explaining that Lean remembered the somewhat psychopathic store owner he had introduced to Ford a few days ago. Even until now, Lean didn't know that the other party's name was Picard. After briefly complimenting Picard with Lean, Ford asked, "Mr. Lean, do you have anything to explain to me this time?" "That's right. One thing is true. I will send you an account right away, and you can put 1 million ringgits into it." After hearing what Lean said, Ford said, "No problem." Afterwards, he and Lean chatted for a few minutes, and Ford was very impressed by Picard, especially his ability to make money. Through Ford's praise, Lean also understood that this Picard was really a talent. After Picard was introduced to Ford by Lean, Ford sent Picard a sum of money in order to test Picard's ability and let him develop freely. With just one transaction, the two of them made a lot of money, which made Ford express his admiration for Picard's talent. Later, Ford said that he would set up a company with Picard in the future, and everyone would make money together. Of course, Lean also played a part in this, and he was the big one. Unfortunately, Lean didn't care about it very much. Junai was not important to him. After hanging up the communication with Ford, Lean lay on the bed, knowing in his heart that Lieber was really helpful this time. After this series of operations, Li Bo spent 8,000 million denais on freight alone. Of course Lean would not return the original price, otherwise it would appear that he did not understand the rules. Of course, how much money is spent is secondary. The most important thing is that through this incident, Lean owed Lieber another favor. After lying on the bed and thinking about it, Lean felt that this was also very beneficial. After all, with Lieber's identity and status, he is involved with the Hunter Association and V5. In the future, the two will definitely help each other and find common interests. Now that they owe some favors, it proves that there is more involvement between the two, making this bridge called friendship more stable. Chapter 148. Recalling the news that Lieber had just told him, Lean estimated that he would be able to get a batch of telepathic prisoners at the earliest, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow at the earliest. Although the quantity may not necessarily meet the conditions for upgrading the prison, it is a good start. The most important thing is that this is just an appetizer. Lean believes that his reputation will spread in the association, and the 12 earthly branches who are the first to know will not sit still and wait for death. It has been a day and a half since the meeting ended. During this time, and stayed at the association honestly, just to give these people time to prepare. But what puzzled Lean was that the person Nitro and Lean guessed did not appear for a long time. Thinking of this, Lean looked at the time and made a call. The target is Nitro, who has not been in contact since leaving the door of the Hunter Association. At first Nitro asked Lean to wait for him for a while, and he would make arrangements for Lean's practice. However, a day and a half had passed, and there was no news from the other party. With a questioning attitude, Lean quietly waited for Nitro to get through. "Hello Lean," came Nitro's voice. Lean replied, "It's me, teacher." Later, Lean asked, "Teacher, when will we start regarding the practice?" After hearing this, Nitro said, "I'm going to host the last session of the Hunter exam now. It will take about 2 days, just wait for me at the association." Hearing this, Lean started to think twice, and without saying anything else, he said that he would stay in the association, and then hung up the phone. After experiencing a series of things, Lean knew that his last leisure time only had 2 days left. He will have a busy time in 2 days. In these 2 days, Lean is going to take a good rest and recharge his batteries to prepare for the next arrangements. Suddenly, Lean seemed to have thought of something, slapped his forehead and said in silence, "Men Chi." Thinking of the agreement with Men Chi, Lean was so upset that he almost forgot about it. Dong! Dong! Just as Lean was about to contact Men Chi, a knock on the door interrupted his movements. Opening the door with confusion, Lean saw a person wearing association uniform standing at the door holding a package. Seeing Lean's figure, the staff said respectfully, "Excuse me, sir, here is your package." Hearing this, Lean looked at the package with suspicion, but said nothing more. "I know, please help me put the package in the room." After hearing what Lean said, the staff member was confused as to why he had to put a small package in by himself, but he knew in his heart that he just had to do it. Watching the staff leave, Lean placed his eyes on the package with a playful look in his eyes. In Lean's opinion, this package was completely suspicious and 100% problematic. After thinking about it carefully, Lean guessed some clues, but he just needed to open them to verify. After summoning Wu Sheng, Lin removed the outer layer of the package with a few cuts, and the items inside were immediately revealed. At this time, a black object appeared in Lin's sight. It was a dark videotape. Seeing that it was a videotape, Lin's lips showed a smile as expected. Without any hesitation, he directly picked up the videotape, found the corresponding player in the room, and sat in front of the TV to wait for the answer to be revealed. A few seconds later, amid the snowflakes on the TV, Lin felt a tug on his consciousness. It's just that this feeling is very weak, and Lin can suppress it with just a thought. But he didn't do this. Instead, he followed the pulling feeling and entered a strange space. Looking at this strange space, Lin knew that his consciousness was pulled into it, and his main body was still sitting well in the room. This kind of space should be able to remotely link the telekinesis abilities of several or more people's consciousnesses, but the dominance is obviously not with those with telekinesis abilities. In other words, this space is equivalent to borrowing a medium to make video calls, which are completely based on personal consciousness. Lin can hang up as he wants. Looking at the empty space, Lin said calmly with no expression on his face, "Come out. Otherwise I will leave." As Lin's voice fell, a ripple of space appeared not far in front of Lin, and a tall figure appeared in front of Lin. Looking at the man who appeared in front of him, Lin completely verified his suspicion, but he didn't expect that this meeting would be in this way. "First time we meet, I am Pornda Nitro, and I would like to invite Mr. Lin to join my team." As soon as Bai Yang showed up, he introduced himself and made his purpose clear. Lin had already expected his appearance. Considering the performance of Paris Stone and Journey to the West, Lin, who was familiar with the characters, naturally would not think that they would make things difficult for him like that. The various performances of these two people are more like an assessment of Lin's ability. Paris Stone was responsible for something similar to an interview, while Journey to the West was testing Lin's combat abilities. The scene before him was an inevitable result for Lin, and Lin would use this opportunity to make Bai Yang pay some price. Lin joked, "Your Excellency Bai Yang is really interesting, the way he recruits people to join is so direct." Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, Bai Yang laughed loudly and explained, "When talking to smart people, it is better to be direct. After all, this is also part of sincerity." Lin smiled disdainfully and retorted, "Is Paris Stone and Westward Journey's provocation also part of your sincerity?" Hearing Lin's words, Bai Yang didn't hide anything and said directly, "Of course it counts. For people like us, it's best to choose our companions through actual understanding." Hearing this, Lin couldn't help but take a new look at the heroic and unpretentious man in front of him. He had to say that Bai Yang was really a man full of charisma. But Lin also knew that he and Bai Yang would probably not urinate in the same pot. The reason for this depends on the impression Bai Yang gave Lin. Based on the understanding of the original work, Bai Yang is a man who is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve a goal. It can also be said that Bai Yang's ambition is extremely huge. He only has himself in his eyes, and others have only value to him, so he will do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. In the original work, the Kajin Kingdom incident can perfectly explain this point, and this is just for a trip to the Dark Continent. Hearing Bai Yang's explanation, Lin smiled slightly and agreed, "What a coincidence. Sir Bai Yang, I also like to be more realistic." Chapter 149. Lin's words were not very clear, but he believed that with Yangda's intelligence, he would naturally understand the meaning. Even when Lin discovered that Bai Yangda was involved in these things, he knew that the meeting between the two had become a foregone conclusion. Lin believed that with Bai Yang's situation, he would not be stingy in paying some price to win over him. But in fact, Lin did not want to cooperate with Bai Yangda. He had considered this issue and finally concluded that Bai Yangda was not worthy of his trust. In terms of combat strength, Bai Yangda's combat prowess ranks among the top in the human world, but his ambition far exceeds his strength. In this regard, Lin has always believed that for a person with huge ambitions and desires, all human constraints such as morality and cooperative relationships will turn into empty talk at critical moments. Once he encounters danger, especially high-yield and high-risk matters, he will not be surprised at all if Bai Yangda sells him out. On the contrary, Bai Yangda's various shortcomings reflected Jin Fuliza's advantages. With Jin Fuliza's character, he would never betray his teammates. Although Jin was quite unreliable about some things, Lin knew that with Jin's style, he would never be dominated by ambition and desire, nor would he abandon some of the fundamentals of being a human being for the sake of so-called ambition. After hearing Lin's words, Bai Yangda said very generously, "What is the price of 10 people being expelled?" "Good. Although Lin said it casually, he really didn't expect that Byangda would make such a big move. However, the meaning behind Bayan's words is very intriguing. The so-called 10 people who have eliminated the price of telekinesis and 10 prisoners with telekinesis abilities are probably two different concepts. Hearing this, Bayan nodded and asked, "Since you are satisfied with the result, let's talk about cooperation next." After thinking for a moment, Lin replied, to be on the safe side, the price should be paid by someone who has committed a heinous crime, otherwise I won't be able to bear to do it. Byangda was surprised and said, "I didn't expect you to be a soft-hearted person, but compared with your telekinesis ability, this kindness is really not matched." After hearing Bayan's words, Lin knew that this was not only a tease but also a test. Through this, it is enough to prove that Byangda is a cautious person, which is in inverse proportion to his heroic style. But Lin's purpose in saying this was not to be truly merciful, but to ensure that he could gain more sin points only if he committed extremely evil crimes. It was obvious that Lin's words aroused Bayan's suspicion, so Bayan used probing methods to explore Lin's roots. Looking at Bayan in front of him, Lin said straight to the point with a calm expression, "I think we can skip testing each other. I think you should have read my information in detail." "Of course, I have read your information, but what you get from the words is ultimately what you want others to see. As for the deeper things, I still have to confirm it myself. After all, staying vigilant is the basic quality of a professional hunter." Facing Lin's straight to the point approach, Byangda seemed to have no scruples. He liked Lin's way of speaking very much. For Byangda, when talking to smart people, you only need to ask a question, and the other person will naturally give you the answer you want. Although this answer may not be true or what he wants to get, as a professional hunter, he will naturally get some clues from it. After hearing Bayan's answer, Lin fully understood Bayan's purpose based on Bayan's character. This was an interview in which Bayan appeared in person. The invitation when Bayan showed up was completely a test of his own attitude. Then, it seemed that he was exploring the price of telekinesis intentionally or unintentionally, but in fact, he was preparing to have a deeper understanding of him. For an ambitious person, having everything in his own hands is the most reassuring thing. Lin looked at Byangda in front of him and said calmly, "What do you want to know, Sir Byangda?" The price of eradicating thoughts can be used as the answer fee. Hearing this, Byangda showed an interested smile and said, "For some reason, I feel like you understand me very well." "I don't know," Lin said directly. Hearing Lin's denial, Byangda asked doubtfully, "Then why do you trust me so much? Don't you become suspicious even when faced with an invitation from a stranger?" Lin sighed, "Yes. It's really doubtful." Then Lin added, "But since you have the surname Nitro, it's not surprising that you appear. But you seem to have overlooked one thing, that is, I haven't agreed to join you yet." Byangda raised his eyebrows and was very surprised by Lin's answer. He praised him, "You are really a person who surprised me. I didn't expect that in such a short period of time, such an interesting guy like you would appear in the human world." Later, Byangda commented, "Intelligent, calm, special ability, unusual agility, no wonder Dad accepted you as his only disciple. I didn't expect that Your Excellency would speak so highly of me. I wonder when your greeting gift will be delivered to me." Faced with Byangda's praise, Lin didn't care at all. What he cared about most was the benefits he was about to receive. Looking at the indifferent Lin in front of him, Byangda said, "The price you call will be delivered to you soon. I just have a question and want to ask your opinion." "My opinion?" Lin said doubtfully. With a solemn expression, Byangda said to Lin, "Yes. Don't you doubt the purpose of my invitation." Hearing this, Lin suddenly became vigilant. Of course he knew that Byangda's purpose was nothing more than to organize people to explore the Dark Continent. A long time ago, V5 organized a mission to the Dark Continent with the purpose of obtaining the alchemical plant Medallion. The leader of the mission that time was none other than Byangda Nitro in front of him. According to the description in the original book, V5 was very well prepared for that mission. In order to obtain Medallion better than Yangda's team, a safer path was even given. If Byangda carries out the mission according to the prescribed route, the probability of failure of that mission is extremely low. Unfortunately, after acquiring Medallion, Byangda opened up a new route without permission, which led to him encountering the immortal disease, Zabi's disease. Not only did Medallion wither, but the team he led was almost wiped out, and he also brought Zabi's disease back to the human world. Chapter 150. That mission almost became Byangda's inner demon. After he came back, he wanted to challenge it again. Unfortunately, Nitro was keenly aware of his thoughts. Nitro is well aware of Bayan's ambitions and knows that this kind of thinking will bring more disasters to the human world sooner or later. Therefore, certain means were used to restrict Bayangda and at the same time limit his ambitions. Facing the powerful Nitro, Bayangda had to choose to compromise, but this compromise was only temporary. Like a temporarily dormant beast, it is always sharpening its sharp fangs in the dark. Sooner or later, it will find an opportunity to make a comeback. Therefore, Bayangda is even more persistent than Jin Fulasi in that mysterious area, and even cooperates with Humupi and the Kajin royal family in order to achieve his goal. On the surface, this cooperation is a win-win result, but in fact it achieves the common goal of both parties at the cost of tens of thousands of civilian lives. Lin was not sure, and Yang Deking was not sure about the purpose of Kajin Kingdom. But now through Lin's contact with Bayangda, he is sure that Bayangda is ambitious, and even if he knew it, he would still do it. Looking at Bayangda who was confidently raising questions in front of him, Lin said directly, "Although I don't know the purpose of your invitation, if you want to say something, I don't mind listening to it." Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, Bayangda laughed a few times and continued, "My purpose is very simple. It has always been one and has never changed. I'm going to pull together an all-around team to challenge a mysterious unknown area. That unknown area is called the Dark Continent in the human world." Bayangda's expression was very solemn, and while there was fear in his eyes, there was also a trace of expectation and excitement deep in his eyes. Later, Bayangda continued, "Your mind-removing ability is an important part of the team, so I will inform you in advance." "Advance notice? What do you mean?" Lin asked after noticing the problem in Bayangda's words. As if he had expected that Lin would ask this question, Bayangda smiled proudly and said, "Of course I want you to know my existence so that you can take my ship when you go to the Dark Continent." Hearing this, Lin raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, "Why are you so sure that I will follow your plan?" Bayangda analyzed, "I have read your information. You once dealt with the Lulak Ruins disaster with Jinfulis. I believe that Jinfulis will not let go of a rare talent like you. And I believe that anyone who has heard about the Dark Continent will regard it as a destination that must be visited in this life. So." Bayangda smiled proudly and continued, "So as long as our goals do not conflict, my appearance will be your best choice and your only choice." "Oh?" Lin questioned, "Are you so sure that I will choose you instead of going with Jin?" "Of course. Because neither you nor Jin have any other choice," Bayangda confidently said. Listening to Bayangda's explanation, Lin secretly thought that based on the development of the original plot, the final result would indeed be the same as what Bayangda said. Seeing Lin's thoughtful expression, Bayangda guessed that Lin was facing doubts, and then explained, "You should know that there are some people in the human world who are restricted from going to the Dark Continent, and Jin and I are just one of them. And the biggest restriction is because of my father. What if this restriction disappears?" Lin looked at Bayangda, knowing Bayangda's entire plan in his heart, but he didn't expect Bayangda to reveal part of his plan directly. If that layer of restrictions disappears, whoever is qualified to go to the Dark Continent first, those who are suppressed in the human world will cooperate with them as soon as possible, right? Your Excellency Bayangda. Looking at the confident Bayangda in front of him, Lin directly revealed all the inevitable developments that would follow. With appreciative eyes, Bayangda replied, "That's exactly the case, so I dare to conclude that once this happens, Jin will definitely be the first group to join. After all, our goals do not conflict." Nodding in agreement, Lin said affirmatively, "You are right. According to your plan, everything has become a foregone conclusion." Later, Lin came up with an idea, "However, how can you be sure that those people will act according to your ideas once they arrive in the Dark Continent? After all, those with strength will never succumb to others." Hearing Lin's question, Bayangda stretched out 2 fingers and explained, "There are 2 reasons." Pulling back a finger, Bayangda said, "The first point is strength. With my strength, I can gain the recognition of these people, and I will also gain their trust through strength." Hearing this, Lin nodded, knowing that Bayangda was right. Having a certain level of strength is an important part of forming a team, but strength alone is not enough to control those strong ones. Withdrawing his second finger, Bayangda continued, "The second point is the contract. If you want to join my team, you must abide by the team's rules, so you must sign a contract with me. Although the effectiveness of this contract does not have strong binding, after they arrive in the Dark Continent, the harsh environment there will force them to choose to face danger with me. At this moment, Lin completely understood Bayan's thoughts. His approach could be said to be very simple, and even a conspiracy. The general meaning is that if you want to take my ship, you must be strong and obey my orders, otherwise no one will be able to get on. Once you get on my ship and wait until you reach the destination, you must have the ability to fly solo. Lin could predict that when these people arrived in the Dark Continent, facing dangers that might arise at any time, forcibly grouping together was their only way out and the best choice as a last resort. After all, those who can be selected by Byangda to board the ship must not be stronger than him, or the strength of these people is not enough to pose a fundamental threat to the team he selected. Listening to Bayan's explanation, Lin kept nodding his head and thought to himself, the man in front of me is indeed Nitro's son. This kind of ambition, courage, and skill are all superhuman. No wonder Nitro is worried about him. After finishing his thinking, Lin looked at Byand and asked, I have one last question. Byand looked at him, and when their eyes touched, Lin said word by word, what is your purpose of going to the Dark Continent? Chapter 151. My purpose is simple. That is conquest. I want to use my own strength to conquer that legendary and mysterious land and achieve unprecedented achievements in ancient and modern times. Byand opened his arms very boldly, with an excited tone, and eyes with endless ambition and deep enthusiasm. Lin nodded. This answer was not beyond his expectation, but he did not agree with Byand's approach. In this aspect, Lin believed that Nitro had the same view as him. Perhaps because he was his own son, Nitro could only impose restrictions when he couldn't take action. Looking at Byand in front of him, Lin sighed in his heart, sure enough, any ambitious person's goal he wants to accomplish is very simple. It's just that what he wants to accomplish is difficult, which makes the process very complicated. Although he knew it in his heart, Lin still said to Byangda, this ideal is indeed great. I can only wish you success. However, that area has been classified as a forbidden area since humans discovered it. Conquering it is not an easy task. Hearing this, Byangda said with a smile, don't worry, I will leave a place for you. Sooner or later you will join my team, because you have no choice, even Jinfuli's. Ah! Lin chuckled and said calmly, then we'll see. As soon as Lin finished speaking, Byand showed an expression of victory and replied, looking forward to our next meeting. Looking calmly at Byand, whose figure was gradually blurring, Lin showed a smile, and in the blink of an eye, his consciousness returned to reality. After returning to reality, Lin looked at the dancing snowflakes on the TV and murmured, unfortunately, with my presence, your plan may not be so easy. Byangda. Suddenly, Lin smelled a burning smell and quickly walked to the player. Sure enough, after completing its mission, the pitch-black videotape entered self-destruct mode. Taking out the videotape, Lin threw it directly into the trash can without studying it. Then, a person sat on the sofa and began to think carefully. Through this virtual meeting, Lin felt Byangda's ambition and understood that Byangda was bound to win this trip. However, if you want to go to the Dark Continent, the price you pay is too high. The initial investment alone would require tens of thousands of lives, which Lin would never agree with. In Lin's heart, he always adheres to a principle. The strong will never sacrifice the weak to achieve their goals. Only heroes will do this. In Lin's eyes, Byand was a true hero. But Lin had other plans in mind. He even had a rough plan at this moment, but he just needed to fill in the details. When his plan begins to be implemented, he will let Byand know what it feels like to have more than 10 years of preparation turned into a reflection in the water. Dong dong. While Lin was thinking, there was a knock on the door, which made him mutter in his heart, is it possible that Byangda's compensation was delivered so quickly, and so blatantly? Mr. Lin, are you there? I have something to report to you. Just when Lin was confused, Hannah's voice came from outside the door. Lin shook his head, knowing that he was thinking too much, and then said, wait a minute. The moment he opened the door, Lin saw Hannah, dressed as an urban working beauty, standing at the door. But at this moment, Hannah's face was full of exhaustion. Without even thinking about it, Lin knew that Hannah must be so tired because she had to work overtime to complete the task. After putting Hannah into the room sideways, Lin returned to the sofa and asked, did you encounter anything difficult at work this time? Hearing this, Hannah shook her head and said, no, Mr. Lin. I came to see you this time because our statistical task has basically been completed. Please take a look at the results after coordination. After saying that, Hannah handed a folder to Lin and motioned for Lin to read it. Opening the folder, Lin began to read it carefully. The more he looked at it, the more he realized that the team that Dumianren had chosen for him was really capable of working. Everything was described in detail on the document so that he could understand it at a glance. Needless to say, Hannah must have put a lot of thought into this aspect. But the more he looked at Lin, the deeper his frown deepened. Hannah, who was standing opposite Lin, saw this situation and unconsciously felt a little pressure. Snapped. Lin closed the folder, handed it to Hannah who was standing aside, and asked, "Can we only get about 40 prisoners in exchange?" Looking at Ryan in front of her, Hannah formally replied, "Yes, according to our statistics, this is the best result. As a mind killer, you should know that some items don't have many evil thoughts, which means there will be situations where the reward is not much. And the bounty for those item-type mind-removing tasks will definitely not exceed the original value of the item, so the conversion of money will definitely be greatly reduced. In addition, according to the statistical results, of the 14 people who have been possessed by Nian, there are currently only 8 left because the Nian has not been removed for a long time, so there are only 8 mission bounties." After hearing Hannah's explanation, Lin nodded thoughtfully, roughly understanding what Hannah meant. At first, Reen proposed 200 telekinesis prisoners to the Hunter Association as the price for handling the association's task of eradicating telepathy. Originally, Lin didn't think that the association's top management would agree to such an outrageous thing. He just had the mentality of raising the price and paying back the money on the spot. But now, through Hannah's first coordination, Lin has determined that these more than 40 telepathic prisoners are likely to be his final reward. This does not include the cooperative missions between Meteor Street and V5. It can be seen that Lin made a very correct choice when he joined the Hunter Association. After lowering his head and thinking for a while, Lin looked up and said to Hannah, "Round up the amount of the reward and write 50. Seemingly sensing Hannah's doubts, Lin then explained, "As for whether the approval is passed, you don't have to worry about that. I still have some faith in the association, and the association's senior management won't argue with me because of this." Lin knew that with the stubbornness of the Hunter Association's top brass, without the 2 obstacles that stood in the way, Paris Stone and Journey to the West, a little bit of face would still be sold. For Lin, this result is completely equivalent to blood profit. The 200 people originally mentioned were completely imaginary, but these 50 people are real. After all, he is doing business without capital, and as long as he completes these tasks, his prestige in the Hunter Association will be further enhanced. Returning the folder to Hannah, Lin asked, "Regarding the cooperation mission between Meteor Street and V5, how is the handover of information going?" Chapter 152. Hearing this, Hannah seemed to be well prepared and said, "Meteor Street entrusted the association's professional hunters to issue the mission as an intermediary. When we contacted the hunter, the other party said that we could only discuss it in detail when we got to Meteor Street. The details of the specific mission are currently unknown, but the person who can release the mission in this way in Meteor Street is probably the senior management of Meteor Street." After hearing Hannah's analysis, Lin agreed, "That's true. After all, there are a lot of shameful things in Meteor Street, but the corresponding rewards must be very generous." Regarding Hannah's explanation, Lin immediately thought of the Presbyterian Church on Meteor Street. Only the elders have the ability to let a professional hunter act as a middleman and have the ability to pay. Hannah continued, "As for V5, the other party said that they would contact Mr. Lin personally, and the association's senior management has contacted V5. Seeing Hannah's hesitation, Lin smiled and said, "I can roughly guess it, just tell me the specific situation." Hearing Lin's words, Hannah no longer hesitated and said directly, "We will not receive any material reward for this V5 cooperation mission. However, the association has negotiated with V5 and will waive the reward for this mission and use the reputation of the association as a guarantee to allow V5 to send the prisoners with abilities as soon as possible. The only thing we are missing now is the association's approval of our list and whether it can be approved by the association." The development of the matter was completely within Lin's expectation. He had already made speculations before, and he would not be surprised at all by this result. But Lin also knew that what Hannah said was only on the surface. As for what deal was reached behind the scenes, he didn't know. However, Lin didn't take these things seriously. After all, he wanted the association to provide him with more help in the future. These things were small things. Instead, they were the rewards that were about to be received and he had to get them as soon as possible. Lin didn't even need to make careful calculations. He was completely convinced that based on the reward of this time, the prison upgrade was almost a certainty. He couldn't wait any longer and didn't know what kind of surprises this upgrade of the prison would bring to him. After listening to Hannah's report, Lin nodded in agreement and said, I am very satisfied with your coordination this time. The only thing left is to ask the association to send the rewards to me as soon as possible, and to gather together the people who need to remove the items. I want to solve it all at once. After Lin finished speaking, Hannah reported, because we have already started contacting each other before, the people and items will be sent to the association headquarters in about 3 days at most. Hearing this, Lin murmured, 3 days. After thinking deeply for a moment, Lin slowly said, Hannah, submit the documents to the association for approval as soon as possible. Tell them that I will see the price in 3 days. Without the price, I can't get rid of such a huge amount of thoughts. After all, I can afford to wait, but those who are possessed by thoughts may not be able to afford to wait. Of course, this was what Lin said deliberately. He didn't have to do this if he wanted to get rid of his thoughts. You only need to gather people together and use Xiaobai's dragon pattern mode to continuously eliminate thoughts. Although the cooldown time is too long, the cost is worth it. But Lin must get paid first. After all, if others find out, it will cost him almost nothing, and it will have a big impact on his future development. Although the matter is exposed, Lin will not face any danger, but Zhu Nian's reward will definitely be greatly reduced in the future, and he will face bargaining and some other problems. In order to avoid those situations from happening, Lin decided that he must set rules and collect the reward first and then remove the thought, otherwise there would definitely be a lot of trouble in the future. After Lin finished speaking, Hannah felt a chill in her heart. She understood that now was the most critical time and hurriedly left to deal with the next work. Watching Hannah leave, a smile appeared on Lin's lips. He knew that the matter was done, and now he only needed to wait to reap the fruits of the harvest. Not long after Hannah left, Lin called Menqi's phone number. After all, he had promised to contact her immediately after the meeting, but he didn't expect it to take so long. After the call was connected, Lin learned that Menqi had left early this morning because he learned about the auction of a new ingredient and would not be back until a few days later. Because he was afraid of disturbing Lin, he did not notify Lin, and made an appointment with Lin in a few days to enjoy this newly discovered ingredient together. After hanging up the phone, Lin couldn't help but sigh in his heart, food hunter is such a busy profession. He devotes his whole life to food. Ah! Smiling at himself, Lin shook his head and thought to himself, why am I the same? I keep working hard for my own goals. Putting aside the thoughts in his mind, Lin decided to cherish the time now, took out the carving knife from the storage room, and prepared to practice the divine characters. Just after carving for a while, Lin's phone rang, disrupting his rhythm. Looking at the smoking wood block, he picked up the phone and found that the number on it was completely unfamiliar to him. Hello, Lin, are you in the association? The moment he connected the phone, a familiar voice appeared in Lin's ears. The moment he heard the voice, Lin knew that the owner of the voice was none other than Yinhu Kangze, one of the 12 earthly branches. Lin said calmly, is something wrong? Of course. Where are you? I'm going to find you. Kangze said in a somewhat urgent voice. Hearing this, Lin told Kangze his location in the Hunter Association, told him to just come over, and then hung up the phone. Half an hour later, Kangze arrived as promised and knocked on Lin's door. The moment Lin opened the door, he was shocked by the sight in front of him. Kangze didn't come alone, he was followed by a group of people wearing standard suits and sunglasses, just like gang bosses. What are you doing? Robbery? Lin asked in confusion as he looked at the scene in front of him. Kangze ignored Lin's teasing and ordered the man in black behind him, carry the things in. Following Kangze's order, the group of people filed in, each with an item in their hand. Lin roughly counted and found that a total of 7 men in black entered the room. Except for the last one who was carrying 2 sacks, the rest were all carrying a black box. Seeing this situation, Lin certainly knew what Kangze meant. He came here to ask him for help. By the way, the reward was already prepared. Inviting Kangze into the house, Lin looked at the items placed in the room and asked, knowingly, are you here to give me a gift? Chapter 153. Kangze looked at Lin sideways and said slowly, as a mind-killing master, you care about this thing? Of course I care. Who would care about the lack of money? Lin shrugged. Don't pretend you don't know, I've even prepared the reward. Kang Zhe said to Lin and waved to the people who were putting things away. In the blink of an eye, he and Lin were left alone. Looking at Lin in front of him seriously, Kang Zhe confirmed, how long will it take to remove these 6 items? Hearing this, Lin did not reply to Kang Zhe immediately. Instead, he focused on the black boxes and said helplessly, you are too anxious. How can I know how long it will take before I see it? You should look at it quickly. Kang Zhe's tone was a little urgent. From the tone of his words, it could be seen that these items must be very precious and have been accumulated in Kang Zhe's hands for a long time. Don't be anxious, take your time. Rin said casually, walked towards the direction where the black boxes were placed, and opened them one by one. The box contains some antiques, including some gold products, which look quite grand and have a strong sense of age. From the first sight, Lin knew that these were valuable items. After using condensation to observe carefully, Lin saw the thoughts attached to the items, and he already had a rough idea in his mind. Then, Lin looked away from the items and looked at the 2 sacks on the ground. Kang Zhe saw Lin turn his attention to the sack. Without Lin saying anything, he walked directly to the sack and released the people in the sack. The 2 people in the sack were wearing prison uniforms. The moment Kang Zhe shook them out, Lin's eye of judgment clearly saw the guilt on their heads. 473. 522. The sin value of nearly 1000 points made Lin very excited. He knew that Kang Zhe was just the first one, and there would be more and more such things in the future. Looking at the prisoner lying on the ground, Lin nodded and said, I'm very satisfied with the reward. Kang Zhe looked at Lin and said, as long as the reward is enough. How about it? Do you have any other questions? Yes. Lin replied calmly. Hearing this, Kang Zhe was a little angry and gritted his teeth and said, I have already prepared so much. Even these 2 prisoners have spent a lot of money. What else do you want? Lin looked a little angry at Kang Zhe, and said directly, you haven't gone out yet, do you want to see me get rid of my thoughts? Hearing Lin's words, Kang Zhe was slightly startled and said angrily, that's it? I should have told you earlier. Bastard. After taking a look at the items placed in the room, Kang Zhe turned around reluctantly and quickly left the room. After sending Kang Zhe out of the room, Lin immediately locked the door, then looked at the telepathic prisoner lying on the ground, with a smile on his lips. Take custody. After taking the prisoners into prison, Lin felt a sense of security in his heart, and said to himself, sure enough. Everything that cannot be taken into hand is empty. Come out. Xiaobai. Surge. After summoning Xiaobai, Lin found that Xiaobai had grown up a lot, and Lin even felt as if he could fly with him by riding on Xiaobai. Since Xiaobai's birth, Lin has discovered that Xiaobai can grow. Whether it is the growth rate of his body or the digestion time of his mind, different changes will occur as Xiaobai grows. It turned out that Lin had to wait for a long time to eliminate his thoughts through Xiaobai, and he couldn't even figure out the specific time for Xiaobai to digest his thoughts. But now is completely different from before. Currently, as long as Xiaobai absorbs thoughts, whether it is normal digestion or sleeping digestion, Lin can know the exact time through the connection with Xiaobai. Lin guessed that Xiaobai should be the 4th type of mind beast mentioned by Ziba, a legendary mind beast that can grow with the mind master. From the knowledge that Lin has added during this period, Lin knows that this kind of mind beast is the most advanced and can even derive many incredible abilities. Thinking of this, Lin waved to Xiaobai, who was floating in the air and playing, and motioned for Xiaobai to come to him. Surge. Xiaobai responded, then floated in front of Lin, with a curious look in his eyes. Looking at Xiaobai in front of him, Lin touched Xiaobai's head, with a soft look in his eyes, and murmured, I don't know what surprises you will give me in the future. Surge. Xiaobai looked at Lin in confusion, not knowing what he meant. But seeing Lin's soft eyes, Xiaobai rubbed his palm affectionately. Then, Lin's eyes turned to the items brought by Kang Zhe and ordered Xiaobai, Xiaobai, let's get to work. After entering dragon pattern mode, Lin faced the object directly and touched it with his hand. Because of the characteristics of dragon pattern mode, any thoughts that are touched by Lin will be absorbed by Xiaobai. So what Lin has to do is very simple. He only needs to touch the items that Kang Zhe brought over, and then order Xiaobai to go to sleep, digesting and absorbing the thoughts as soon as possible, and then he is done. Looking at Xiaobai in front of him who had completed his task and started to disappear, Lin silently sensed it, and he already knew in his heart that it would take about 2 days to remove Xiaobai's thoughts and leave him in a deep sleep. Lin silently praised Xiaobai for getting rid of Nian, and then opened the door. The moment the door opened, Lin saw Kongzhe waiting anxiously at the door. Kongzhe entered the room the moment Lin opened the door, and immediately used condensation to check the status of the valuables. Seeing Kongzhe's eyes shining with admiration for those precious items, Lin understood his mood very well. For a treasure hunter, those hard-earned treasures are the most valuable thing. As a leader among treasure hunters, Kongzhe cherishes those treasures even more. That kind of feeling that can only be seen but not touched is like a beautiful woman who can only be seen but not touched, teasing Kongzhe's restless heart all the time. Kongzhe stroked each item one by one. Only when Kongzhe put down the last item did he let out a big sigh of relief. After fastening the boxes of valuables one by one, Kongzhe turned back to look at Lin and said, "I'm really troubling you this time. I will contact you in advance next time if something happens. I hope you still have time." "No problem, just contact me in advance. If the quantity is large, I will give you a discount." "Of course. I advise you to prepare more at one time. After all, I only have these few items at a time, and I don't want to have to rush back when I go out." Lin shrugged noncommittally, and gave Kongzhe some advice to make it easier to eliminate thoughts in the future. Chapter 154. Kongzhe said angrily, "Do you think I don't want to? I have seen countless items like this from auctions. But because of the various thoughts attached to it, I can only watch helplessly. That feeling is really too painful." Hearing this, Lin asked doubtfully, "You have been a treasure hunter for so long, have you only found these few items with thoughts attached to them?" "Of course not. As a mind killer, you should know that the more valuable the item, the higher the probability of being attached to various evil thoughts. Of course I will encounter a lot of them in the process of searching. It's just that some of them are seriously eroded by evil thoughts. We can't touch them at all. Some of them will even be destroyed directly. What you see now are just some that can be taken away. Just items like this consume a lot of my energy and money. You can imagine how painful it would be for me to have those valuable items destroyed." Seeing Zihu's distressed expression, it was not difficult for Lin to see Kongzhe's mood at that time, and comforted him, "You can rest assured now, please contact me directly for such matters in the future. I am professional." Hearing Lin's words, Kongzhe nodded and agreed, "I have to say, you are the most powerful I have ever seen in terms of the speed of erasing thoughts. If the reward can be reduced, that would be perfect." Hearing this, Lin smiled helplessly, "You know, the cost of eliminating thoughts is equal to the effect of eliminating thoughts, and I can't help it." Kongzhe nodded, as if he had thought of something, and asked, "If I introduce business to you, can you give me more discounts?" "Of course. I will definitely get discounts for high-quality customers." Faced with Kongzhe's proposal, Lin was happy to hear it. With a professional hunter like Kongzhe helping him advertise, he was happy before it was too late. Lin knew that this was just a normal phenomenon. People like Kongzhe, who had a high demand for mind-killing masters, would definitely try their best to reduce their remuneration. And everyone's social circle is different. If Kongzhe's proposal was more serious, it would be equivalent to putting Lin into his circle. This will play a great role in the future development of both parties and ultimately create a win-win situation. "Okay. That's it, we'll contact you next time." Kongzhe said something, then opened the door and let in the people outside. It's just different from when he came in. This time, the reward for eliminating Nian has been accepted by Lin. After sending Kongzhe away, Lin breathed a sigh of relief. During this time, he was going to close the door to thank guests and study the divine characters. After all, Xiaobai is in a deep sleep state. Even if he has the resources now, he cannot realize it. However, what Lin didn't expect was that the leisurely life of inscriptions with divine words only lasted for a day and a half. On this day, when Lin was immersed in the inscription of divine words, Lin received a call from Karapika. Karapika informed Rin that all 4 of them, except Killua, passed the professional hunter exam and became a professional hunter. Hearing this, Lin knew in his heart that it was Ilmi who came out to cause trouble, causing Killua to lose his qualification for the test. After hearing Karapika's story, Rin asked, "Are you 3 here?" "In X3. Okay, let me tell you directly, are you going to find Killua next?" Lin knew that according to the plot, the next step of the protagonist group would be to go to Mount Kyuzu to look for Killua, and finally they would go their separate ways to do their own things, and eventually they would all learn the power of telekinesis. Gon said firmly, I will go find Killua. Leorio continued, I will go too. Killua looked very wrong at that time. I will definitely not feel relieved if I don't go and see with my own eyes. Well. That's it, I may go to you later to learn that power. Kurapika made the final statement. After pondering for a moment, Lin replied, then I wish you all a safe journey. If there are any problems in beating the enemy Haka, you can mention my name. After all, I have some face in beating the enemy Haka. Besides, I've been very busy recently. If you want to learn that kind of power, I'll introduce you to a master named Yungu. If you agree, I will inform him immediately of your affairs and give you his contact information. Kurapika said sincerely, in that case, I'm sorry to bother you, we owe you a lot of favors. Hearing this, Lin said with a smile, you're welcome, at least we got to know each other, it's nothing. Suddenly, Zyja's voice came from the other end of the phone, Lin, will we meet again? Yes, after I finish what I'm doing, we should have a chance to meet. Rin knew that the place where Ganja and others learned telekinesis was in the Sky Arena, and he and Hisoka still had an agreement to fight. As long as Zyja and others haven't left by then, there will be a chance to meet them there. Later, Lin warned, Leoli, if you are not in a hurry to learn medical skills, you can first master the basics of that power. Then slowly polish your skills while studying medicine. This will be very beneficial to your future. Hearing this, Leorio said clearly, I understand. I was still struggling, so I'll just listen to you and master the basics first. Well, that's it, let's go see Killua's situation first, and then learn as much as possible together. After Kurapika finished speaking, Lin warned him a few words and then hung up the phone. For the current Rin, the protagonist group has almost no help to him. But after all, they were characters that I loved very much before, and now I am inextricably connected with them. It doesn't matter if you help as much as you can. Regarding the protagonist's ability to learn telekinesis, Lin is most worried about Kurapika. As long as he doesn't follow the plot in the original work and prevents Kurapika from developing the kind of telekinesis ability that can injure the enemy 1,000 times and damage himself 800 times, this is the only thing he can do. After thinking for a moment, Lin called Yungu just to be on the safe side. Because Nitro had made arrangements before, Yungu immediately said that it would be up to him to learn the ability of these people, and he would guide them to the right path. Especially regarding Kurapika, Lin informed Yungu of the specific situation in detail and told him to pay more attention to Kurapika. After hearing Yungu's very confident agreement, Lin felt slightly relieved about the matter and continued to practice the inscription of the divine characters on his hand. A few hours later, Lin felt slightly tired. Just when he put down the tools in his hands and was about to take a rest, a strange phone call came. After the phone was connected, a strange voice came from the other end, Hello, Mr. Lin. Your goods have arrived. Can you go to the designated place to sign for them? Chapter 155. Hearing the information about picking up the goods, Lin smiled slightly and calculated the time in his mind. The prisoners transported by Ribi should have arrived. Without much hesitation, Lin asked, where should I go to pick up the goods? The other end of the phone replied, we took the air route and are currently staying at the airship airport. If it is convenient for Mr. Lin, you can tell us where to send it. However, there must be a place to park a small airship, otherwise we can only ask Mr. Lin to come over. After listening to what the other party said, Lin pondered for a moment and confirmed that the other party was indeed the prisoner chosen by Lieber as he expected. Regarding such an upright matter, Lin felt that there was no need to hide it at all, and said directly, please drive the airship to the top of the Hunter Association building, I will wait for your arrival there. Copy that. Please wait a moment, Mr. Lin. We will arrive at the designated location in about 15 minutes. After the person on the other end of the phone finished speaking, he hung up the phone. Without stopping for a moment, Lin walked out of the room and took the elevator to the top floor of the association building. The association's building has 3 parking spaces for airships, but none of them currently have parking spaces. Seeing this situation, Lin naturally didn't need to negotiate about the parking spaces and just waited on the top of the building. About 10 minutes later, an empty boat appeared in Lin's sight. Lin stood on an airship, waved to the approaching airship, and then quickly left. A few minutes later, the airship landed slowly and stopped at the location where Lin waved. The door of the airship slowly opened, and a group of staff wearing grey and white clothing walked out carrying 7 prisoners wearing prison uniforms. The moment he saw the prisoner, the criminal's guilt value appeared in Lin's eyes. After calculating the total sin points, Lin nodded secretly and said to himself, Libier is really reliable. The prisoners with the lowest number have more than 800 sin points. The staff put down all the prisoners, and Lin saw that the last person to walk out was a man wearing a prison guard's uniform. The man in prison guard uniform, the moment he saw Lin, he quickly stepped forward and introduced, Hello, Mr. Lin. I am the deputy warden of Palak prison, Pork Silman. Looking at Pok's outstretched right hand, Lin took it directly and introduced himself, Ryan Pester. Pork retracted his palm, pointed at the prisoner behind him, and said, This is the prisoner Mr. Lieber selected for you. Please check it. Your signature will be needed later for confirmation. After saying that, Pork took out a folder from the armpit of his left arm, handed it to Lin, and explained, This is the information about this group of prisoners, including their telekinesis abilities and the crimes they have committed. Description accordingly. These prisoners will be comatose for about 7 days because of the drugs they have taken. Counting from now on, the drug will still be effective for about 5 days. During this period, Mr. Lin can rest assured that the prisoner will not suddenly wake up. Thank you. After thanking him, Lin took the folder and walked towards the group of unconscious prisoners. Although he had seen the guilt of this group of prisoners through the eye of judgment before, in order not to arouse too much suspicion, Lin was still going to check it out and go through a cut scene. After opening the folder in his hand and comparing the prisoners one by one, Lin closed the folder, turned around and asked, You can sign now. But I hope Mr. Poker can have someone help me carry these prisoners to my room in a secretive way. Hearing this, Pork said a few words to the staff around him, and then replied to Lin, These are all small things, as long as Mr. Lin is satisfied. Lin nodded, quite satisfied with Pork's service attitude, and replied, Thank you. I am very satisfied with Mr. Poker's work. During the conversation between Lin and Pork, the staff had already packed the prisoners into boxes one by one. Pork took a look at the preparations and said to Lin, Please lead the way, Mr. Lin. Please. Lin said with a smile, and then walked up to the front. Seeing that Lin had already set off, Pork waved to his men, motioning for them to carry the box and follow him, and followed Lin closely. Lin and Pork stood at the door of the room, watching the staff carry the boxes into the room one by one. After the transfer was completed, Pork handed a paper document to Lin and said, Mr. Lin, please check it again and sign the document. Our mission is considered completed. No need. Without saying too much, Lin opened the file, glanced at the signature information above, and then signed his name decisively. Handing the document back to Pork, Lin thanked you, It's really hard for you, I'm very satisfied. Please say hello to your superiors for me. After receiving the handed document, Pork opened it, checked it, and said with a smile, Mr. Lin, you're welcome. I will convey your words. Now that the work is over, we won't disturb you. After Pork finished speaking, he left with his men. It wasn't until Pork's figure disappeared that Lin walked into the room and quickly locked the door. After checking the box on the ground and making sure that there was nothing wrong with the prisoner and the box, he let out a breath and his breathing became rapid. After Lin wiped out the Warcraft clan in the Tommy Forest, his crime value reached 2,173 points. Afterwards, Kong Zay's reward increased his crime value by 995 points, reaching 3,168 points. After roughly calculating the crime value of the prisoners escorted by Pork, Lin began to feel excited. Except for the 2 prisoners with sin points around 800, the remaining 5 prisoners all had sin points above 1,000, with the highest one having 1,726 points. Although no detailed figures were calculated, according to the simple algorithm of adding integers, Lin also knew that the total number of sin points must exceed the 1 sin points required for upgrading. This means that Lin doesn't have to wait for Byangda's reward or the association's reward for removing thoughts. After taking in these prisoners, your prison will be upgraded to level 4. When Lin calculated this result, he almost couldn't control his emotions, but it would attract too much attention, so he tried his best to suppress his joy. It was only now that Lin was left alone that he released those emotions and looked at the unconscious prisoner with telekinesis on the ground with burning eyes. Take custody. Without too much hesitation, and even his voice trembled with excitement, Lin directly took the prisoners into the prison one by one. Watching the last prisoner disappear into the box, with a thought in Lin's mind, his figure gradually blurred and appeared in the warden's room. Chapter 156. The moment Lin stepped into the warden's room, a piece of information appeared in his mind. Lin, who had experienced this many times, was not surprised at all and knew that this was a new change in the prison. As for what changes have occurred, he still needs to digest this information. Sitting on the chair in the warden's room, Lin closed his eyes and quietly digested and sorted out the content of this information. After a long time, Lin opened his eyes. At this moment, his eyes were full of joy and surprise. After sorting it out, Lin already knew that this prison upgrade had brought him a prison skill and a prison facility. It's just that the surprise this time was a bit big, catching Lin off guard. He had thought that he would be greatly improved after the prison was upgraded to level 4, but this surprise was completely beyond his imagination. Lin took a few deep breaths in his seat, trying to calm down his excitement. Then, he couldn't wait to open his personal panel. Warden, Ryan Purst. Age, 18 years old. Prison level, level 4. Prison skills, Eye of Judgment, Prison Controller, Infinite Body, Prison Arms Without Pardon, Prisoners Roster. Prison facilities, Warden's Room, Cell, Storage Room, Interrogation Room, Between Doors. Self-skill, Realm of the Sky, Disabled. Lifespan, 201 years. Sin value, 731 points. Next stage, Sin points. When he saw the latest panel, Lin's breathing became a little rapid, and he could even hear his own heartbeat. The newly emerged skill standards are displayed on the panel, and his lifespan has jumped from 150 years to 201 years, a full increase of 51 years. Reen stopped paying attention to the issue of lifespan a long time ago. After all, for him, other people's lifespan is constantly being consumed. But he is completely different. His lifespan will continue to increase as time goes by. Lin just glanced at the lifespan column and moved his eyes directly to the newly appeared prison facilities and prison skills. The prison's new skill is called Hunter's Roster, while the prison facility is Between the Doors. Lin already had a rough understanding of these two new surprises when receiving information from the prison, and was ready to test them out later. Then Lin looked at the conditions for upgrading the prison to level 5. As expected, the conditions for upgrading the prison were increased by 10 times, and the next stage required a full 10 Sin points. However, Lin is not worried. Resources can be gathered slowly. What he is looking forward to most now is to experience the surprises that Between the Doors and Prisoner's Roster bring to him. Lin couldn't wait to stand up from his seat. With a thought in his mind, Lin muttered silently, "Between the Doors." In an instant, Lin's figure disappeared, and when he reappeared, he came to a space that looked like daylight. This space was like daylight, empty except for Lin himself. After looking around, Lin stretched out his palms and said, "Condensation." "Say it." A white sphere appeared in Lin's palm. Looking at the white sphere like rice grains in his hand, excitement appeared in his eyes. The role of doors is clearly explained in the information conveyed by the prison. According to Lin's own understanding, a door refers to a passage from one space to another. The white light ball in front of Lin is like a wedge, which can play a positioning role. As long as this white light ball is placed at a designated location, it will automatically blend into the depths of that space and act as an anchor point. After the wedge is positioned, a door leading to the target location will appear among the doors. And Lin only needs to spend a certain amount of energy to travel between the two places through the door. It can be said to be an extremely convenient prison facility. Lin held up the white light ball and observed it carefully. According to the prison's description, this white light ball was named wedge. The wedges play a role in positioning, but there are not many of them. The initial quantity is only 5, and one will be automatically generated every 7 days. As for the energy consumed, it is naturally the life essence released by the prisoner. According to the explanation given by the prison, a complete wedge does not consume much life essence. Moreover, the life essence in the prison now is basically turned into life essence because it is too strong. Even the excess has automatically evolved into life crystals. This consumption is really nothing to Lin. Dragging the wedge in his hand, Lin looked towards the top of the space, where 5 white spheres emitting faint light were floating in the air. Without paying too much attention to these wedges, Lin dropped the one in his hand and appeared directly in the room with a thought. After walking to the bathroom and washing his face, Lin calmed down his excitement, opened the door and walked out. Arriving at a corner not far from the Hunter Association, Lin took out a wedge and prepared to set the location here. After all, he will definitely visit the Hunter Association headquarters frequently in the future, so he would take this opportunity to test the use of the door. Lin looked at the wedge in his hand, clamped it between his two fingers and applied slight force, crushing the wedge directly. Then, Lin saw the wedge turn into dots of light and disappear in front of Lin. At the same time, between the doors that Lin could not see, a wooden door as tall as a person was slowly forming. Seeing the light disappear, Lin left here, picked a direction at random, and started walking like a walk. After roughly estimating the distance, Lin knew that it was about 10 kilometers away from the location where the wedge was set. After observing the surrounding environment, Lin found a deserted corner and entered between the doors with a thought. The moment he entered between the doors, Lin saw an additional wooden door in the space. Even when Lin looked at the door, he could clearly sense the place that the door led to. Without any hesitation, Lin walked directly to the only door. The moment he opened the door, Lin walked directly in. The moment he stepped through the door with his left foot, in Lin's surprised eyes, he appeared directly at the originally set location. After silently sensing the amount of thought he was consuming, Lin was excited to go further and test it again. When Lin appeared at the same place for the second time, he had basically understood the extent to which this prison facility consumed his own energy. After 2 attempts, Lin was very satisfied with Menjian's consumption of thoughts. The moment Lin touches the door will charge the price in advance, and the distance of 20 kilometers is only a trace of his energy. At a fraction of the cost, a lot of trouble can be saved. For Lin, the practicality of this prison facility is the number one among many prison facilities. Chapter 157. After returning to the Hunters Association room, Lin locked the door and immediately entered the warden's room. Lin has previously conducted tests on the between the doors of prison facilities, and he was very satisfied with the results. Next, Lin is going to learn about another prison skill, prisoner roster. Standing in the warden's room, Lin summoned the roster of prisoners with a thought. Prisoner roster, as the name suggests, refers to the specific information of prisoners in the prison. But in the message conveyed by the prison to Lin, the prisoner's roster expression plays a huge role. In short, every time Lin takes in a prisoner, that prisoner's information will appear on the roster. Lin, on the other hand, can obtain the telekinesis ability of the designated prisoner by flipping through the roster. It can be said that this is a quite buggy ability. However, this ability also has limitations, that is, the prisoner selected by Lin can only use 60% of his telekinesis ability. In other words, when Lin used the offensive telekinesis ability, it was no different than useless, and the attack effect was not as good as his casual blow. But the benefits are also obvious, such as some auxiliary mental abilities, which are also of great help to him. Where is the strongest point of your reading ability? If someone asked Lin this question, he would definitely answer, it's all kinds of strange and unexpected, full of unknowns and uncertainties, which is where the power of mind is strongest. From this point of view, the prisoner's roster can be said to be Lin's strongest method besides Ziobai. When he learned about the general effect of the prisoner's roster, Lin was full of expectations for this ability. After Lin recited the roster of prisoners silently, a ripple of space occurred in the warden's room, and a book emerged from the space. The book fell slowly, and Lin observed it carefully. The appearance of the book was extremely dark, and only the center of the book was occupied by 2 different colors of text. Above the book is the blood-red word sin. The moment he looked at this word, Lin even felt that the word sin was full of blood like endless sin. Looking down, underneath the book is the pure golden word punishment. This word is majestic and majestic, giving Lin a sense of righteousness and majesty. The 2 words each occupy half of the book, making the book full of mystery. However, what surprised Lin was that the words used in the book turned out to be characters that Lin was familiar with before he transmigrated. Seeing such a situation, Lin couldn't help but look slightly sideways, and for a moment he became deeply curious about the origin of the prison. However, Lin did not continue to delve deeper. He knew that the most important thing at the moment was the present. Now I am not qualified to touch the answer to this question. I can only solve this doubt until I have enough strength in the future. After observing for a while, Lin reached out without any hesitation and took the prisoner's roster in his hand. The moment he took possession of it, a message from the prisoner's roster was conveyed to Lin's mind. What the prison had previously conveyed to Lin was only the general content of the 2 abilities. But now, when this information reaches Lin's mind, he knows the real use method of the prisoner's roster. Originally, Lin thought that in order to use the above abilities, he would need to turn page by hand. Such behavior is completely different from his fighting style. Not only will it not increase his fighting ability, it will actually cause him to be held back. After digesting this information, Lin realized that he didn't need to flip through the prisoner's roster at all, and he didn't even need to hold it in his hand. After summoning the roster of prisoners, the roster will continue to consume the warden's mental power and actively form a spiritual link with the warden. Because the two parties maintain a link, the roster will remain open, always floating behind the warden, and the text within it will be invisible. When using it, you only need to name the prisoner's Nian Qi, and the roster will automatically charge a certain amount of Nian Qi as the withdrawal fee. The extracted telekinesis ability will maintain its basic characteristics and eliminate the cost of oaths and restrictions. This means that using the prisoner's telekinesis ability also requires abiding by certain rules, and it is not free. And the prisoner's roster has the property of immortality, which means that it cannot be damaged by any method. Looking at the roster in his hand, an excited smile appeared on Lin's lips. He felt that the roster was completely created for him. Lin knew that apart from his telekinesis ability, his strongest strength was his mental power. In the hunter world, Lin is sure that when it comes to the intensity of mental power, there will never be anyone stronger than him with more than 5 fingers. Putting the roster on the desk in the warden's room, Lin was ready to return to the outside world to test the strength of the roster. In the outside room, Lin's figure appeared. Without any hesitation, he directly summoned the roster. In an instant, a dark book with crime and punishment written on the cover appeared next to Lin. Almost the moment the roster appeared, Lin felt its existence, and the two sides resonated smoothly. Feeling this feeling, Lin knew in his heart that the roster wanted to have a spiritual connection with him. Without any hesitation, he directly chose to accept it. In an instant, the roster next to Lin opened, revealing a blank space in the book. Seeing this situation, Lin knew in his heart that this was because he had not chosen the ability to read. But Lin is not in a hurry, he still needs to test it in other aspects. Silently feeling the state of his body, Lin closed his eyes and felt silently, feeling the level of consumption of his mental energy. After a moment, Lin showed a smile, which was not beyond his expectation. I don't know if it was because of his high mental power, but the roster consumes very little mental power. Afterwards, Lin took a few steps in the room and confirmed that, as stated in the message, the roster would always follow him because of the mental link. Seeing this, Lin thought about it in his mind and said, "The fraud of the 1,000 faces man." After saying this, the prisoner's roster began to flip through quickly in Lin's sight, and stopped in less than a second. Then, the prisoner's appearance began to appear on the left side of the page, and information about the prisoner's telekinesis appeared on the right side. The fraud of the 1,000-faced man is the telepathy ability of a criminal detained by Lin in Pujan's prison. The criminal's name is Zhou Qi, the 1,000-faced man, and he is a guy who does all kinds of evil. However, Lin didn't know the specifics of this guy's telepathy ability. He probably used his appearance to deceive and kidnap him. Chapter 158. But at this time, the effect of the telekinesis ability, the deception of the 1,000-faced man, clearly appeared on the right side of the page. The 1,000-faced man's deception, he can change his appearance to that of anyone he touches with his hands within 7 days. The duration is 72 hours. You can disable the telekinesis ability at will, but after using this ability once, it cannot be used again within 3 days. Seeing the effect of this telekinesis ability, Lin's face gradually emerged in his mind. After all, he had just shaken hands with Pork. Walking to the bathroom, Lin looked at the mirror in front of him. As soon as he thought about it, he saw his face slowly changing into that of Pork. After taking a closer look in the mirror, Lin couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. After seeing the effect of the telekinesis ability, the deception of the 1,000-faced man, Lin knew very clearly that this telekinesis ability had an effect on him. It's just that the role it can play is really limited. Just changing the face will have no effect on people at the same level as Lin. However, this will not affect the status of the roster in Lin's heart. What he needs is never a single ability, but the variability of the roster. Lin removed the telekinesis ability from his face and looked at the pages of the roster. The white paper on it had turned black, and he knew without thinking that this ability had entered an unusable state. Stretching out his palm, Lin held the roster firmly in his hand, walked slowly to the sofa, and read it carefully. After the test just now, Lin has understood the abilities of the roster. What he needs to do most now is to memorize the telekinesis abilities of the prisoners currently in custody. Especially those useful telekinesis abilities, he must understand their characteristics and shortcomings while remembering them. You must know that in battle, an additional unexpected method will have an unexpected effect on the battle situation. In the original work, Crollo, the leader of the Phantom Troop, perfectly explains this. The variability of the thief's ultimate intention can even form different fighting styles. Thinking of this, an idea appeared in Lean's mind. If he took Crollo into custody, what would happen to the roster? The idea just flashed through his mind, and Lean threw it away, sitting on the sofa and reading page after page. Fortunately, there were not many prisoners in Reen's custody. After taking note of the telekinesis abilities of those people, he really couldn't pick out a few useful ones. However, there was an unexpected harvest among them, a prisoner named Sparkhart. Because he had just been detained not long ago, Lean still remembered his information. He was the guy with 1712 sin points. This guy's telekinesis ability is very interesting, it's called Spider Sense. This ability has almost no cost. When activating this mental ability, it will enhance the body's perception of the surroundings and provide early warning of some dangers that occur to the body. It seems that this telekinesis ability is very useful, whether it is exploration or combat, it is a very practical ability. In fact, its side effects are equally terrible, especially for some people whose mental quality is not up to standard. The moment they sense danger, their bodies will freeze. Of course, if this point can be overcome, this ability is simply one of the perfect auxiliary abilities. Thinking of this, Lean sighed and murmured, "Unfortunately, there is no good way to experiment now, otherwise I really want to try whether I can overcome this side effect." Afterwards, Lean took the roster to the prison and prepared to eat something and have a good rest. After all, the hunter exam is now over, which means that Nitro will be back soon. And he, after completing part of the association's backlog of tasks, will still have to practice with Nitro for a period of time. The next day, Lean slept until noon, tidied up briefly, and then checked the drying condition of the 7-colored peacock. The dried condition of the 7-colored feather peacock was very good, but to be on the safe side, Lean decided it would be better to wait a few more days. After eating something, just as Lean was about to practice the divine words, he was attracted by a knock on the door. Without having to think too much, Lean guessed that Nitro was probably back. The moment he opened the door, Lean saw the figure of the bean-faced man. The bean-faced man said politely to Lean, "Good afternoon. Mr. Lean. Your Excellency Secretary General, is the President back?" Before the bean-faced man could say anything more, Lean asked in advance. "Yes. The President has just returned to the association headquarters and is currently in the office, waiting for Mr. Lean. The President asked me to take you to see him. He said he has a good thing to announce to you." Hearing this, Lean was slightly startled. He could predict that Nitro would return to the association. As for what the bean-faced man said, he really couldn't guess it for a while. With a helpless smile, Lean complained, "We are all in the same building, so why not just make a phone call? What good things can't be said until we meet in person? Since the President said it is a good thing, it must be closely related to Mr. Lean. I can guarantee this." The bean-faced man responded. Shrugging his shoulders, Lean said politely, "Then please ask the Secretary General to lead the way. After all, I have never been to the President's office. Please follow me." The bean-faced man said something, then walked ahead to lead Lean the way to Nitro's office. Boom, boom. Walking to the door, the bean-faced man knocked on the door and said, "President, I brought Mr. Lean here." After saying this, Nitro's voice came from the room, "Come in." Walking into Nitro's office, Lean could clearly see the general layout inside. This office was obviously remodeled according to Nitro's ideas. There is an obvious polarization. One half is where the office reviews documents, and the other half is separated by a sliding door and becomes the place where Nitro makes tea every day. "Mr. Nitro." Walking to the round table where Nitro was drinking tea, Reen first said hello and then sat down cross-legged. The bean-faced man on the side was already sitting next to Nitro when Lean came forward, and carefully made tea. Looking at Lean in front of him, Nitro stroked his beard and said with a smile, "It seems that you have had a good rest during this period." Hearing this, Lean was stunned and replied, "Teacher, what do you mean? I heard that you basically stayed in the house while I was away. It seems that you are ready to take a good rest and prepare for my training with the best attitude." Nitro explained immediately. Looking at Nitro's half-smiling expression, Lean knew that the old fox in front of him was just making fun of him again. Of course, Nitro guessed that during the time that Lin was staying in the association, he would definitely not stay around, and he might have done something that he didn't know about. There was an obvious hint of curiosity as he spoke. But Lin didn't resent it, because Nitro's attitude towards him had always been clear. To put it bluntly, he wants Rin to be his scapegoat, and he will shoulder the burden of the Hunter Association and the protection of the human world in the future. Although there are good intentions in this, Lin naturally has his own plan, and he will not let Nitro get his wish so easily. Chapter 159. Looking at Nitro in front of him, Lin felt very complicated. He didn't know how his future plans would make this elderly man feel. This made Lin feel very interesting just thinking about it. He wanted to see Nitro's demeanor at that time quickly, and he even felt impatient. Lin knew very well that at the moment when Netero showed his cards, as long as he agreed to become Netero's disciple, then his position in Nitro's heart will be that of the closest person besides Bianda. Through his understanding of the original work and reality, Lin knew that Nitro was a person who valued emotions very much, and he also knew his current position in Nitro's heart. From the original work, Nitro uses his last dignity to ask the 12 earthly branches to prevent Bianda from going to the Dark Continent. It can be seen that this old fox can do anything for his own people. On the surface, for the sake of the human world, he asked the 12 earthly branches to stop Biand from heading to the Dark Continent. In fact, Nitro's purpose is very simple, which is to let the earthly branches and Biand go to the Dark Continent together. It is impossible for Nitro not to understand the price of failure in going to the Dark Continent. And the more people who go there, the more uncertain the number of disasters they will bring back. His approach has invisibly added more risks to mankind. Nitro knew that with the abilities of the 12 earthly branches, it would be difficult to prevent Biand from going to the Dark Continent, and he could only continue to pursue him. When these people arrive in the Dark Continent, they will only face one situation. Facing the harsh environment of the Dark Continent, people who arouse the desire of professional hunters to explore will inevitably have other psychology besides completing the mission. Faced with this situation, the 12 earthly branches will try their best to complete their tasks and explore the dangerous area as much as possible. The final result is undoubtedly that these people are not strong enough to fight against the threat posed by the Dark Continent. In the end, forcibly uniting is the best option for both parties. This is completely Nitro, using his own face to send a group of experts to protect his willful and arrogant son. Thinking of this, Lin couldn't help but feel a burst of emotion in his heart, and asked, "Teacher Nitro, can you wait a few more days? I want to finish the backlog of mind-clearing tasks in the association." Of course, I originally thought so too. After all, I also have to make certain arrangements for the next work of the association. Nitro said in direct agreement. "Mr. Lin, please have some tea." The bean-faced man poured Nitro a cup of tea and handed another cup to Lin. Taking the teacup from the bean-faced man, Lin said, "Thank you." After taking a nice sip of tea, Nitro said, "Actually, I called you here this time because I have some good news to tell you." "What's the good news?" Lin said calmly. Nitro looked at Lin with a smile and congratulated, "Congratulations to Lin, you have become a one-star food hunter because of your achievements in discovering new ingredients with Menchi." Hearing this, Lin realized that the good news Nitro said was that the review results submitted by Menchi had come down. After thinking about it carefully, Lin felt that it was very normal. After all, as the president of the Hunter Association, Nitro must be among the first people to know the news. Lin murmured, "A food hunter." Then, Lin said, "But I want to become a bounty hunter. Will there be any conflict between the two parties?" Hearing this, Nitro explained, "Of course not. Whether they are bounty hunters or food hunters, they all fall into the category of one-star professional hunters. Those prefixes were all added by me to reflect my professionalism in a certain field. Lin, you have to remember one thing. The hunter profession always relies on merit and strength. No matter how resounding the name is, it will not play a decisive role." Lin nodded unequivocally, indicating that he understood what Nitro said. Then Lin asked, "Teacher Nitro, I wonder how long our practice will last." "Do not know." Nitro took a sip of tea and answered very simply. Later, Nitro explained, "You have to know that learning, no matter in any field, depends on talent. I have not taught you, so I can't say anything about this." Lin agreed very much with what Nitro said. Cultivation is always a personal matter. After all, everyone's cultivation talent is different. As if he could see Lin's troubles, Nitro persuaded him, "Actually, you don't have to be so anxious. You have enough time to grow. Even if you continue to grow step by step, it will be a matter of time before you surpass me. Hearing this, Lin felt that Nitro had misunderstood something. He was just thinking about how to arrange the next thing. After all, he still has a lot of things to do next, such as talking to Menchi, cough. Cough. The reward promised by Byangda has not arrived yet. Feeling Nitro's concern, Lin couldn't refuse his kindness and said sincerely, I understand, Teacher Nitro. After hearing Lin's words, Nitro nodded with satisfaction, picked up the teacup and took a sip, with a look of enjoyment on his face. After chatting with Nitro for a few words, the two parties agreed on a time. After Nitro and Lin finished handling the matters at hand, they would go to the practice place and start practicing. Of course, this does not include the cooperative missions between V5 and Meteor Street. In Lin's opinion, those tasks are definitely not simple matters, and he will not be anxious about these two parties. Although in terms of V5, it is equivalent to payment of remuneration, and it is guaranteed by the reputation of the association. But it will never be Lin who is anxious, but those who originally agreed with V5. As for Meteor Street, not to mention, when to go depends entirely on Lin's mood. If they don't come to ask Lin for this kind of thing, he can delay it as long as he wants, and it won't be too late to wait until he has time. What's more, Xiaobai is about to swallow a lot of thoughts after waking up, so he just takes this opportunity to practice with Nitro and waits for Xiaobai to finish digesting them. Secretly making up his mind, Lin asked, I wonder what procedures my one-star hunter has to go through. Hearing this, the bean-faced man knew that it was time for him to appear and said, it's very simple. As long as Mr. Lin hands me the hunter's license, I will take you to go through the necessary procedures. It will take about half a day. Lin nodded. According to Donian Man, it is very likely that the so-called half-day is still the speed of Donian Man himself. This shows how troublesome it will be to complete the entire process. Without staying any longer, after Lin made sure there were no other problems, while there was still time, Lin directly asked the bean-faced man to take him to go through the formalities. With the help of the bean-faced man, Lin went through the entire process, which also took a considerable amount of time. Chapter 160. It wasn't until it got dark that Lin completed the final confirmation and got his hunter's license back from the bean-faced man. After going through the tedious procedures, Lin finally understood why Jin had the merit to be promoted to a 3-star professional hunter, but he had not been certified because he was afraid of trouble. Looking at the hunter's license in his hand, Lin knew that from this moment on he became a 1-star professional hunter. After bidding farewell to the bean-faced man, Lin returned to the room and immediately checked the drying condition of the 7-color feathered peacock. After confirming that there is no problem, in order to avoid leaving the ingredients for too long and causing the meat quality of the 7-colored peacock to change, put it directly into the storage room. Taking out some A-grade ingredients from the storage room, Ryan prepared to cook himself a rich dinner to celebrate his many good deeds in recent days. 2 hours later, Lin was eating the freshly cooked food with a happy face, feeling the faint warmth in his body. He found that maybe after a while, the physical improvement effect of A-grade ingredients might disappear completely. At that time, Lin will be faced with the situation that the level of the ingredients is not enough to support the strengthening of the infinite body, and he must find a way to obtain S-level ingredients. Regarding the issue of S-level ingredients, Lin has also investigated. It is not that there are no S-level ingredients in the human world, but those ingredients that have been recorded have a price and a market, and their location has long been unknown. Regardless of whether it was available or not, it was so difficult to obtain that it was a complete waste of his time, so in this regard, Lin decided to find another way. After finishing the sumptuous dinner, Lin tidied up, took a warm hot bath, and fell asleep early. The next day, when Lin was reading in his room, Hannah knocked on the door and came to report to Lin. Please sit down. Taking Hannah into the room, Lin motioned for Hannah to sit down and talk. Thank you. Hannah didn't show any pretense. She sat directly on the sofa opposite Lin and reported, the personnel dispatched by V5 this morning were contacted by phone. About this afternoon, they will arrive at the association headquarters with 50 people. After hearing Hannah's report, Lin nodded and asked, are the personnel and items that need to be removed in place? There are still some people on the way, but I have contacted them by phone, and those people have promised to arrive at the Hunters Association within today. However, V5 has a unilateral request, and I need your approval. After Hannah finished her report, she raised the most critical question for her visit to Lin this time. My approval? Tell me in detail, what requests did the other party make? Lin's tone was slightly playful, and he was interested in V5's request. He wanted to know what the purpose of these people was. Hannah explained, the request made by V5 this time is that when the price is handed over, Mr. Lin will communicate with the person sent by V5, and the other party hopes to get the opportunity to meet with you alone. Afterwards, Hannah looked a little hesitant, pondered for a while, and continued, I know very well that the other party's purpose is not simple, but if you don't come forward, Mr. Lin, it is estimated that it will be difficult to obtain the price of eliminating thoughts by relying on the association. Moreover, the other party didn't give any notice before, and they didn't bring it up until they were almost at the association headquarters. It was obvious that we had made up our minds and had no choice. The questions Hannah raised were very thorough and completely in Lin's mind, which made Lin very satisfied with Hannah's performance. Don't worry. Lin said to Hannah in a relaxed tone. What do you mean? Directly agree to the other party's request. Hannah asked doubtfully. Hearing this, Lin nodded and confirmed, why don't you agree? Seeing the confusion on Hannah's face, Lin explained, no matter what the other party's purpose is, they will not get around the fact that V5 needs me to erase their memory. So it's okay to meet once? You don't have to worry about the association's suspicions, and you don't have to worry about my safety. Then, Lin smiled slightly and said, what's more, this is not a bad thing. Even if the other party puts forward any conditions, both of us have room for negotiation. At worst, it will fall apart. We can also think of other ways. In terms of demand, the V5 aspect should be the most urgent. After listening to Lin's explanation, Hannah suddenly realized that she was obviously overcomplicating this matter. In this matter, Hannah only noticed the need to be wary of V5, but ignored Lin's methods and his current status in the association. Understood. I will arrange the next thing now, and I will come to inform you then. With bright eyes, Hannah obviously found the direction of her work and left Lin's room with a new understanding. Seeing this, Lin smiled slightly and continued to read the book in his hand. In his opinion, no matter what V5 thought, it was not important to him. And there is one thing that Lin has not told Hannah, since I have come here, if I want to leave without putting my things down, do you think that I, Lin, am made of clay? In the blink of an eye, time has come to afternoon. When Hannah knocked on Lin's door, Lin glanced at the clock and saw that the time had reached 17. Opening the door, Hannah saw Lin and said, Mr. Lin, V5 just contacted us. Their airship is still about 15 minutes away from the association headquarters. If we go to the roof of the association headquarters now, we should be able to see the other side's airship. Hearing this, Lin thought for a moment and said, no rush, please find me a room that is larger and can be used for meetings. I will go there to wait for them. When you greet them, remember to tell them to send them the price as well. After hearing Lin's instructions, Hannah replied, understood. Please come with me. Following Hannah's footsteps, Lin asked, how are you preparing for the removal of thoughts? Our people have been paying attention to this aspect. Currently, all items have been placed in the association's underground storage vault. The staff has not arrived yet. Most of them are on their way. The latest one said they will arrive before 19, today. Hannah spoke in great detail, and based on the detailed description of her work, Ryan could see how dedicated she was to this job. Afterwards, Lin, led by Hannah, came to a conference room. After taking a look at the size of the conference room, Lin ordered Hannah, go ahead. I will wait for you here. After receiving Lin's instructions, Hannah left the conference room without staying too long, leaving Lin waiting alone. Sitting in the seat in the conference room, Lin tapped his fingers on the table and began to think secretly in his heart.